2, 1.
Welcome to the May 19th City Council meeting. I am Jim Nash. I am the City Council President, and I will be presiding this evening. I would like to open by first making everyone aware that this meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. I now call the City Council to order. Laura, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Foster.
Here.
Councillor Gore.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Nash.
Here.
And Councillor Perry.
I'm here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, we are now convened. Tonight, residents will have a number of opportunities to share their thoughts on matters before City Council. I want to make sure everyone is aware of how we will proceed under these somewhat unusual circumstances. We will begin with 2 public hearings, one on a poll petition and another on an administrative order regarding the Health Department and the Department of Community Care. Due to the length of our agenda, I am going to ask that speakers for the hearings on these matters keep their comments to under 3 minutes. After the public hearings, we will open public comment, where speakers can speak to any topic for up to 2 minutes. We will then proceed to our announcements from councilors and from the mayor, and the mayor will give her budget message. We will then recess for city services to consider the appointment of Patrick McCarthy as the Central Services Director. People interested in this appointment can speak at that time. It will be up to the chair of city services to set a time limit on this comment. Once city services adjourns, we are back in the full city council. We will consider an order to opt out of mosquito spraying, where once again, public input will be part of our process. I will be limiting this comment to 3 minutes. There you have it. 2 hearings, public comment, a committee meeting, and a public input on mosquito spraying. I'm going to now read my preamble for public comment, or much of what I read for public comment, as it will guide us throughout all of these procedures. If you wish to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is on the bottom menu bar under reactions. If you are calling by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you are having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to Councillor Foster, and we will work to make sure you have a chance to speak. A note on chat: to ensure quality access, and because of the open meeting law, technical problems such as not being able to raise your hand are the only thing that the chat function will be used for, and the chat function will only be available during times where we're taking public comment. We cannot accept comment over chat, private chat, or chat only visible on Zoom during a public meeting is antithetical to an open public process, in violation of the council rules for public participation, and violates the spirit and potentially the law of open meeting law. If you want to submit a written public comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. Also, according to open meeting law, if someone is disrupting a meeting, they may be removed. One last note, this meeting can also be watched on channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube and other platforms. Okay, where's my Zoom button here? All right. To the agenda. All right, we did that. Public hearings. Okay, first item, a public hearing on item 22.081 National Grid poll petition for one JO poll on Clark Street. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Northampton City Council is holding a public hearing on National Grid's petition to install one JO pole on Clark Street. The City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. Could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so motion was made by Councilor Jarrett and I believe seconded by Councilor Perry. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, could I get a roll call?
Sure. Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing on this poll petition is now open. Do we have somebody from either National Grid or from the city here to speak to this item? Maybe we need to find them here.
No, Lisa Jasinski usually is here.
Maybe she expected to be rather late.
Oh,
Huh. Is
Yeah. I sent her and Lisa
Lascaux
Ayers.
here?
Huh.
Well,
She's
Sometimes
usually
it-
right on time.
Yeah.
well, she might have thought we were going to be hearing a lot of comment on other things first.
Could be.
Lisa Ayers from National Grid did acknowledge receipt of the agenda and Zoom link, so her colleague, I sent it to both of them, but it was acknowledged.
Do we want to reverse the order of the public hearings?
Well, yeah, we probably want to do that. So we're going to want to close this hearing, correct? Or do we, Laura, do we keep it open?
Looks like the mayor has something to say.
Sorry, so just a point of order. So the next one isn't posted till 7:15, so you have to wait till 7:15 to begin it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Can you sing some tunes for us, President?
I'm sorry, what?
Could you sing some tunes for us? In
Well,
between?
you know what? While we're waiting, we could do some announcements, I suppose. Laura, is it okay to do announcements while we're in a
I
public?
would think so. I mean, I guess you could close it and reopen it.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing so we could do some announcements.
I second that.
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, so Councilor Maori has made a motion to close the public hearing. I think Councilor Labarge seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore, Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay. Let's head on down to announcements. Do counselors or have any announcements? Counselor Maori.
Yeah, I have an announcement from the Finance Committee, which is for the public hearings, which are May 31st and June 1st, Tuesday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. I wanted to let the public know that it will be on Tuesday. We will be hearing from the department heads and discussing the budgets of central services, fire and rescue, DPW, Department of Public Works, Health and Human Services, and the Department of Community Care. All those are on Tuesday. That's starting at 6. And then on Wednesday, we will be discussing and hearing from the department heads of the Northampton Public Schools and the Northampton Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Maori. Any other announcements? Okay, well, I have one. I would like to announce my appointments to the Select Committee to study barriers to participating in city committees and commissions. And I am appointing Susan McDonald Bolanos, Cynthia Suopis, Jana White, Javier Luengo Garrido, Gwen Nabad, Garrick Perry, and Jamila Gore. Councillor Foster and I worked pretty diligently on this, and we are super happy with this group of people. They represent the health department, the planning board. Here, where's my list so I can? The Human Rights Commission. We have the ACLU represented. We have somebody who lives in public housing. We have 2 of our fine counselors also joining this group, and I'm very excited about the prospects of the recommendations that they're going to come up with. And I'd like to thank both Councilor Perry and Councilor Gore for stepping forward here. I really appreciate your leadership. And yeah, this is really cool. So thank you. All right. Any other announcements? All right. Are we at 7:50?
Councilor
Yes,
Perry has an
Councilor Perry.
Since we have time, we're biding for our time. I would like to just note that the Summer on Strong event has officially begun right in our downtown. It was an amazing addition to our city last year. In fact, it gained a lot of regional attention, and I'm excited that our city government has also decided to chip in and expand not only the musical calendar, but also some of the accoutrements around the area, and it looks beautiful. So if you guys in the community have a chance, please go and enjoy some local food and some good times and great music.
Excellent announcement. Okay, it is now 7:15, and let's try opening this other public hearing. We know the mayor's here, so. All right.
I move to open the public hearing on administrative order.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion was made by Councilor Moulton and seconded by Councilor Perry. Here, let me just read it real quick what we're opening here. Public hearing on administrative order. The City Council will consider proposed amendments to the City of Northampton Administrative Code, Part 1, Administrative Organization, Section 3.0, Health and Human Services Division, and Part 2, Multi-Member Appointed Organization, Section 12.0, Health Board of. So that's the hearing we're opening. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori. Okay, I don't see her momentarily. We'll skip over Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
One more try for Counselor Maori, but I don't see her. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I see her there. Okay. Okay, the public hearing is now open and Mayor, do you want to open this by how do you want to proceed here?
Gladly. Good evening, counselors. So this is the administrative order that we introduced at the last meeting and had pretty extensive conversation and presentation on. So this is restructuring the health department as the Department of Health and Human Services and creating the Department of Community Care within DHHS. So I am here tonight for this hearing with the Department of Community Care Implementation Director, Sean Donovan, and Michelle Ferry is also here. She was here last time as well. She is the Health Department Assistant Deputy Director, and she's been working very, very closely with Director O'Leary, who couldn't be with us this evening, and with Sean on moving this forward. So we are, if the council wants, I could read the letter that I read last time again, but since we had such a, I see a shaking of the head. Since we had such an extensive presentation last time, we're happy to just be available for any questions or any discussion you want to have with us.
Okay. Well, with that, I think it would be, well, counselors, do you have any questions about the proposal since we last met? Okay, seeing none, I will now entertain residents who'd like to speak to this. So if you're interested, if you could use your raised hand feature and we will recognize you and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to this matter. All right. All right, I don't see anybody raising their hands. We'll give it another minute. Okay. Well, seeing that nobody from the public wishes to speak to this administrative order, I will consider a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Second,
Motion made by Counselor Labarge and seconded by, I think, hold on,
Counselor Moulton.
by Counselor Moulton. I thought I quickly saw somebody raise their hand. I think it was Spencer.
I don't know.
All right, I'm not seeing that hand. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to close the public hearing. Any discussion on closing the hearing? I'm hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
yes,
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
and Counselor Gore. Yes.
Okay. Mayor.
I just want to give a quick thank you and shout out to Michelle and Sean for being available to be here tonight and ready to discuss this. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. And don't worry, we'll be doing lots of talking from here on out, but thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, I also want to thank you for on the council's behalf for being here. And I think that the lack of public input here also reflects the degree of support for this measure. And we will be taking this item up later on tonight. So anyway, so thank you for being here. All right. Do we have is Lisa here yet?
Still don't see her.
Okay, so Not only is it long, this agenda, we need to be flexible. So why don't we now head on to public comment? The rules are much the same as I read before. Let me see, where are my rules here? To ensure everyone has equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to 2 minutes. You are in no way obligated to use the full 2 minutes, but if you do, after 2 minutes, I will ask you to please finish your sentence. A 2-minute timer will appear in the Zoom gallery display to help speakers track their time. According to council rules, we do not respond during public comment as it is your time to speak. So while your comment should be directed to us, you will understand when we don't respond. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor, and all comments are to be directed to the council. So, and all of those other rules I read before are also applied here. So, public comment. I see one hand raised. John Paradis. I see another. Okay, good. People are queuing up. John, are you able to unmute?
I think so. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
welcome, John. You have the floor.
Very good. Hello, greetings. Thank you, Council President Nash. My name is John Parody. I live in Ward 4. I'm speaking today in support of Resolution 22-103 that is before you this evening for a second reading, and which calls on the federal government to keep the VA Medical Center in Leeds open and to fight any move to further privatize veteran health care. As a veteran with service-connected disabilities, I rely on the VA Medical Center here for my primary care and to coordinate all my specialty care needs, which are extensive. The recommendations to close the Northampton VA Medical Center would be devastating to me and my family. As it is now, there are specialists who are not available in Leeds, so I already must travel to West Haven, Connecticut to meet with VA specialists. I have a vehicle and I have the means to get to and from appointments, but I know from working with many veterans over the years how much of a hardship it is for veterans to travel long distances for care. It's quite a concern for me that there have been so many of us in the veteran community, most principally Stephen Connor, who have worked so hard over the years to ensure veterans suffering from homelessness and veterans needing inpatient behavioral health care make sure that they get good care at Leeds. And what would this mean should Leeds close? Veterans would be expected to get their care at other locations, and to us, that's unacceptable. I particularly worry about the veterans who reside at Soldier On and what happens to their access to health care should the VA Medical Center close. I greatly worry about all the combat veterans over the years who have seen the great transformation up in Leeds with the PTS ward and all the other service-connected mental health. And I'm greatly concerned about all the veterans who have told me over the years that the VA saved their lives. You know, what happens to them? What happens to all the veterans that will need care in the future? So with that, I just want to say thank you to the mayor, Stephen Connor, all the city council members who joined Representative McGovern in the listening session at the VFW in Florence last month. And this resolution is much needed. It covers everything that was said that night. And I thank all of you for your support for veterans in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up is Ace Taylor. Welcome, Ace.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Ace Taylor, Ward 3. I'm a member of the Northampton Housing Partnership, as well as a homeowner and landlord in Northampton. I am here speaking in support of the bill to ban brokerage fees from tenants. I'm certain other people will speak to this matter tonight, so I'll keep my comments to things that may be unique. Landlords are the ones that are equipped to bear the burden of brokerage fees. In most parts of the country, it is landlords who pay for this service. It's so much a standard that it's in our tax code. Landlords can write off these expenses as part of their taxes. The reason why it's like this in this area, I can't say for certain, but it places a very unfair burden on tenants. The right and just thing to do is to pass this order to relieve tenants of this fee. Secondly, I would like to speak in support of the ranked choice voting measure, as I think that's something that's going to aid in civic engagement and make it easier and more friendly in order to vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ace. Next up is Hannah Schaefer.
Hi there. My name is Hannah Schaefer. I am a renter in Ward 5 and also a member of the Northampton Housing Partnership. And I'm speaking tonight in favor of the Home Rule petition to prohibit landlords and brokers from requiring brokers' commissions to be paid by a tenant or prospective tenant. When the Unlocking Opportunities study that looked at barriers to housing in Northampton was conducted in 2019. It identified that at least 2/3 of Northampton rentals were owned by rental agencies locally. Most of these properties require first, last security and a broker's fee of 60% of 1 month's rent for move-in. Rent NoHo currently provides, I think, a wonderful service to landlords, but elsewhere in the country, it's not considered normal for this fee that they charge to be shouldered entirely by tenants. Generally, this fee is paid by landlords elsewhere in the country. So I just want to speak in support of the Home Rule petition. I think that Rent NoHo provides a valuable service. I think it's great that they photograph the properties, that they list the properties, that they help landlords understand the law. And I just don't think that tenants should be paying for that service. So thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Next up is Spencer Fox Peterson. Welcome, Spencer.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm just calling in to voice the support of banning broker fees for renting. It's already hard enough for people to achieve the American dream in the United States as the current housing crisis. So at the very least, we should be making it easier for people just to have a roof over their heads. This would be an excellent step in ways to show that even if you don't own property, that the government sees these people. I own my own home. I live in Holyoke and I work out of Northampton. I'm lucky to have owned my own home. So, but I have been a renter, and very often in our communities, renters are disregarded, whether politically or resources. So please ban this, as everybody else has listed great reasons. I would also like to add, not related to the broker fees, I would like the council to address the accusations levied against Officer Borowski of the Northampton PD. He has a laundry list of issues and has cost the city a lot of money in liability and lawsuits and all sorts of stuff. This is all public knowledge. I encourage anybody listening to me to Google Officer Borowski. I believe the Shoestring wrote an article recently about him, but has also detailed his past issues. This is a waste of money. So please look into what happened a couple weeks ago with Officer Borowski while I think arresting somebody. Regardless, I know the DA said they're not going to investigate it, but that doesn't mean anything. The DA never goes after cops. They work together. So that's where I'm coming from on that. So please take this seriously. You have officers that are costing you guys money. And I drive in your city. I'm governed by your government. And I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Spencer. Next up is Shelby.
Hi, I'm Shelby Lee, and I'm speaking in favor of efforts for Northampton government to keep the VA open. My spouse receives a majority of his medical care through the VA. I also have disabilities and he is my primary caregiver. So if he had to go to Boston or Springfield, which would be the closest locations for care, and a majority of the specialists would be Boston, and primary care would be Boston, it would impact both of our abilities to receive our current health services. And it would add a significant financial burden to us because of the gas prices currently. I also want to speak in favor of banning the broker's fees in Northampton. I am a renter. I have rented through Rent NoHo since 2017. Anytime I've had to work with them, they knew nothing about the properties I was visiting. They couldn't answer basic questions like who the internet provider to the property was. One time I showed up to view a listing of theirs and had to walk up a snowy unplowed driveway with a 5-year-old child to look at an apartment that was supposed to be a 2-bedroom and what they were calling a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the bedrooms was actually a closet. It had no outlets. That's not an exaggeration. It was a closet. They really don't provide any service to the tenant, so it doesn't make sense. I'm sure they do a lot of work for the landlord, but it just doesn't make sense for the tenants to pay them for no services that they provide for the tenants. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Next up is Lauren Rollins.
Hello.
Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm Lauren Rollins. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I'm a 3-time renter in Northampton, and I'm the founding president of the Western Massachusetts Policy Center, which is a nonprofit public policy training and research organization that's rooted not in political ideology, but pragmatic solutions to persistent local and regional policy problems. We essentially seek to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people with the fewest unintended consequences. And this is why the broker fee issue is of special interest to us. Last month's public hearing demonstrated that the current system benefits only a very small group of people, namely either the owners of the rental brokers themselves or the owners and brokers of the area's largest real estate firms, individuals who've diversified their personal investment portfolios by becoming private landlords at a fairly large scale. This allows these individuals to double dip. And by that, I mean, if you're both a landlord who passes the broker fees on to your renters, and you're also the owner of the company that collects that very fee, the current structure is a profitable racket, but it is a racket. This is why even a quick search of Rent NoHo's reviews going back for years reveals a pattern of egregious complaints from the tenant customers they claim to serve. And if we imagine any other business in town, a restaurant, for example, where almost all of its customers feel that they're paying exorbitant rates for bad service and bad food, that business would be out of business in very short order. The fact that Rent NoHo isn't is an Econ 101 sign that anti-competitive behavior is occurring. Consider the often repeated talking point that repositioning fees onto landlords will put brokers out of business, but why? Why should it matter who's paying the money as long as it's being paid? Here's why. Because currently renters are a captive market. They're forced to pay for a service that someone else has chosen and contracted. They can't shop around without foregoing a particular unit in a market with severely limited inventory. This effectively functions as a monopoly. But landlords aren't captive. When they pay the fees, they'll demand lower fees, better contract terms, responsive customer service, and brokers that fail to provide that may go out of business, but those who innovate and adapt will succeed. Rent NoHo and other brokers should therefore take this as a challenge and rise to the occasion. The current system is shielding a bad business model from failure, and it's stifling diversity, accessibility, and affordability in Northampton's housing market. And for all these reasons, we urge you to approve the amendments and vote in favor of the home rule petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. You almost got it in under 2 minutes. I know she worked on that. Joshua.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, Joshua, welcome.
Thanks so much. Josh Feldman, I live in Ward 3. I'm a school council member at Bridge Street and Bridge Street Elementary, where I have 2 kids currently and a third coming into kindergarten. Looking forward to the budget conversation this evening, and I would just love to raise up education as a top priority for the city. I think all boats will rise if we continue to support our great schools. And in the coming year and years, we have a budget challenge ahead of us with state funding not necessarily covering what we're going to need for the schools. And this year, there's already been cuts to positions with a large potential budget cliff for next year. So I'd just like to encourage all to support our great schools and our great principals who are doing incredible things with limited resources, and imagine what Northampton could be like as a magnet for business and community if we were in one of the top 10 school districts in the state, which I believe we have the talent to do, but need more resources to do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joshua. Okay. Last call for public comment. Oh, we have Hannah Fleischman. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Hannah. Just a quick comment in support of banning brokers' fees. I wasn't at the first hearing, but just one other argument that I know the landlords are making is that it would just cause rents to go up. But just to note that that would actually be less harmful than charging the broker fee. Anyone living paycheck to paycheck knows that it's easier to spread out a cost over time than to pay it once. That's all. Thank you for considering.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, this is my second last call. Okay. Well, let's see if somebody raises their hand while I look at the agenda here to see what we're doing next. No more hands raised. Okay, so we are going to move on from public comment. We've already done our announcements. Maybe the mayor would like to do her budget presentation. You ready? We could throw in a public hearing again.
I'm ready. Thank you, counselors. I was very pleased to submit the budget for FY23 to the council on Monday. And tonight I am happy to share with you the budget message. The budget message is an important part of the budget process and is actually stipulated in the charter that there be a budget message. So I am happy to read that to you this evening. To the honorable members of the City Council. I submit for your consideration and approval my proposed $126,026,677 FY 2023 budget for the City of Northampton in accordance with Article 7, Section 7-3 of our charter. This budget is comprised of $110,228,601 general fund combined with 4 enterprise fund budgets for water at $6,945,000, sewer $6,177,500, solid waste $679,090, and stormwater and flood control at $1,996,486. This budget proposal represents a 4.07 increase from the current FY22 City of Northampton budget that ends with the fiscal year on June 30th, 2022. As I sat down to write my first budget message as mayor of Northampton for FY23, I read and reflected on past budget message introductions by my predecessors. I found that our recent past helps give context to our present and can inform our decisions that are on the horizon. This budget represents historic advances for Northampton while also reflecting some of the hard challenges of our time. I want to acknowledge that this year's budget is being created amidst national economic uncertainty and rising inflation, the prospect of rollbacks of fundamental rights by the Supreme Court, and abroad, there are continued atrocities by Russia against Ukraine and global unrest as the climate crisis rages on. Our current FY22 operating budget was described in its message by former Mayor Narkowitz as one of, quote, cautious optimism and active recovery. As this message goes to print, 67% of Northampton residents have had at least one dose of the vaccine and 49% are now fully vaccinated, end quote. A year later, I am happy to update these statistics and report that 93% of Northampton residents have had at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. 80% have had the primary series and are considered fully vaccinated. and 55% now have had one or more boosters. The Northampton Health Department's vaccine clinics have administered over 60,000 vaccinations to date. While there have been great strides in vaccination rates thanks to the remarkable efforts of the Northampton Health Department, the COVID-19 pandemic has continued to have a destabilizing effect on the broader economy, supply chains, and the labor market. While I've seen some recovery in areas of local revenue, others have remained at well below pre-pandemic levels. In truth, the collection rates of some revenue streams may never be the same. Parking fund revenues for FY23 are projected at a conservative $1.2 million, which represents a 40% reduction of the revenues annually generated by parking fees pre-COVID, and it has been slower to rebound than hotel, motel, and meals taxes. This revenue fund bears watching as the economic recovery of the downtown area continues. For FY23, the city projects marijuana revenue of approximately $975,000, which is less than the prior fiscal years, primarily due to continuing loss in market share to the other communities throughout the region. It remains to be seen what will be a sustainable market share for Northampton as more locations continue to open across the state. On the expenditure side, fixed costs continue to increase at levels far exceeding the maximum 2.5% over which municipalities in the Commonwealth are forbidden to raise local revenue levels without an override. Health insurance at $12.5 million in FY23 is the largest fixed cost line item in the operational budget. While the most subscribed non-Medicare health plan, Health New England, increased by 6.5%, Medicare plans only increased an average of 1.8%. In addition, there was a significant shift among subscribers from family to individual plans. Both of these factors contributed to keeping the total increase down lower than projections, though the city is experiencing increases of 7.5% to 20% in insurance costs for workers' compensation, property, auto, and liability, all of which put pressure on the budget. Due to fiscal uncertainty, department heads were asked to submit level service budgets, and in some cases were asked to revise their initial budgets and make cuts. The notable exceptions are in education and the newly restructured Department of Health and Human Services, which will include the Department of Community Care. As we look across the general fund departmental categories, most personnel services, PS, changes are for salary steps, though some departments saw an overall decrease in PS due to senior staff leaving. One area where we have incorporated operations and maintenance, OM, increases to better realistically budget for the coming year is to account for the precipitous rise in energy costs in the last few months. This is seen most notably in the Department of Public Works, Highway Division, Forest Parks and Cemetery Division, and in Central Services. In general government, we have continued to centralize technology services, software licenses, and purchasing in the Information and Technology Services ITS department by moving departmental technology lines and expenses to ITS. Parking enforcement's PS was reduced due to significant turnover of senior staff and due to the moving of a half-time shared parking maintenance position to a full-time in parking maintenance, which increased that PS. On August 13th, 21, Governor Charlie Baker signed the amendment to the city charter, which included a provision to change the status of the city clerk position from elected to appointed. This change required that a job description be created and evaluated by human resources, and that the position be placed on the wage and salary scale. This change, along with an increase in OM expenses to purchase election equipment to support ranked choice voting and regular PS step increases, resulted in a 6.77% increase in the city clerk budget. The Office of Planning and Sustainability's increase in PS of 4.23% reflects a restructuring in the first half of FY22 due to a change in staffing. The principal clerk position was eliminated and a sustainability project manager position was created, increasing the PS line. The slight increase in OM is to address the need for groundskeeping supplies and printing costs. In public safety, two departments have seen overall decreases in their budgets. The police department's budget was reduced as more information technology costs were shifted to the ITS department, and the Public Safety Communications Center received 2 grants, one of which covered the funding of 2 dispatchers, effectively reducing its PS, while the other reduced the OM budget. Fire rescue's increase is mainly a reflection of step increases, training costs, and steep rises in expenses for EMS supplies due to supply chain issues. The building department only saw contractual step increases. Under culture and recreational services, we continue our deep commitment to the public library system by increasing the budgets of Forbes and Lilly libraries by 3.12% and 3% respectively. Parks and Recreation saw a small decrease overall due to the transition of information technology services to the ITS department. Finally, Arts and Culture maintains stable funding, adding only contractual step increases in PS. The Department of Public Works, DPW, increases, as noted above, are mostly a reflection of the rising cost of supplies and energy. The FY23 budget will provide important funding for planned improvements to city infrastructure and projects directed to maintain our roads, cemeteries, and parks. The 4 enterprise funds, water, sewer, solid waste, and stormwater and flood control, are mostly level funded and self-sustaining. The reserves in the funds will be used to support the operational and capital project budgets for each utility. Therefore, I have recommended no rate increases for FY23. However, the impending departure of Coca-Cola from Northampton will have a significant impact on the water and sewer revenues, as the industry makes up 1/3 of the collections in both utilities. DPW Director Lascalia and I will be working with Coca-Cola officials and looking at all options available to mitigate the expected loss in revenue. This budget continues our strong investment and commitment to our public school districts. The city appropriation to Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School will increase by 4%, and the city appropriation to Northampton Public Schools, NPS, will increase by 5.07%. The increase for MPS represents the initial 4% increase anticipated as a part of the implementation of the Prop 2.5 General Operating Override and renewal of the Fiscal Stability Plan by the people of Northampton, and an additional $109,000 allocated to NPS during the school budget process. After hearing from the community, school committee, teachers, and staff about concerns for next school year as we adapt to an endemic COVID-19 school environment, I cut $109,000 from the city budget to give an additional increase to MPS for a total increase of $1,447,000, or a 4.33% increase from FY22. This increase far exceeds the city's investment in any other department or service provided to the Northampton residents. Maintaining this level of commitment to education in Northampton was a high priority for my administration, even as it required tough choices elsewhere in the budget. At the Northampton School Committee budget vote on April 15th, 22, an additional $250,000 was passed by the committee with a 6-4 vote. While I was one of the 4 school committee members that didn't vote for this additional increase, I have included it in this FY23 budget. As I said at the April 15th meeting, I voted against the increase because the school committee stated that a recurring revenue source has not been identified to support the increase. Without that, it will result in an annually compounding budget shortfall in the MPS budget. In FY23, the MPS budget relies on significant portion of reserve school of choice funds. The use of these funds is exceeding the school of choice revenue, drawing down the fund balance at a rate that will result in a significant budget gap next year. Additionally, one-time federal COVID-19 elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER funds are being used to support and grow the FY23 MPS budget on some recurring and compounding expenses, not just one-time expenditures. Some of this growth is attributable to the hiring of 29 additional educational and health staff since the start of the pandemic. Based on the October 21 Department of Elementary and Secondary Education count used to calculate state aid, the student body has decreased by 80 students. The use of reserves greater than incoming revenue and one-time federal funds to such a degree will create a gap that will exceed the city's capacity to raise additional revenue to cover it. And I'm concerned about our ability to maintain our educational programs and staffing at current levels in near future years. I appreciate the challenges of this time and the need the pandemic has created for significant additional support, and the necessity to aid schools as we recover from the acute pandemic years and adjust to what the future holds for maintenance of an endemic situation. Therefore, I've incorporated the additional allocation into the budget for this year. I expect that my colleagues on the school committee and I will work to address these concerns and to transition MPS to a sustainable budget post-emergency relief in the upcoming years. At 5.07%, this is the second largest percent increase to MPS in 15 years. The largest being 6.27% in FY 2014, when additional $985,000 was added to the MPS budget after the June 13 override established the Fiscal Stability Plan and the Fiscal Stabilization Fund was created. The 2013 General Operating Override corrected a projected $1.4 million budget gap between revenue and level services and staff for the FY 2014 budget, which would have resulted in deep cuts to the biggest department in the city, the Northampton Public Schools. One of the reasons I ran for mayor of Northampton is my appreciation for and commitment to the continuation of the fiscal stability plan. This plan, which the people of Northampton renewed in March 2020 with another $2.5 million general operating override, the use of which was delayed until FY22 right now, and has been able to create job and service stability for the last 9 years. Prior to its implementation in 2014, and due to the economic devastation of the Great Recession, the city's reserves were almost completely depleted. The Capital Stabilization Fund held less than $5,000, and no capital investments on the city's infrastructure were done. Instead of working to balance the budget with level or enhanced services, as we have in recent years, school and city budgets regularly needed to cut staff and services to achieve the required balanced budget. In those days, the city's budget was sometimes a painful seesaw between growth and cuts, and the schools and city departments suffered, especially from the loss of skilled employees who sought greater stability elsewhere. The fiscal stability model was built to provide reasonable increases that are sustainable over a multi-year period, especially for MPS, which has had an average annual increase to its budget of 3.76% in that time. Unplanned increases and substantial use of one-time revenue to balance and grow the budget are not sustainable financial practices. It risks jeopardizing the plan and this period of budget, job, department, and service stability. The fiscal stability plan has been updated, and the timeline and the amount needed for the next general operating override has been altered. In FY22, the fiscal stability plan indicated that in FY23, the city would be able to put away about $230,000 in the fiscal stabilization fund, and would be anticipating the need for an override in FY25 to cover a $2.2 million deficit in FY26. The plan's been updated with the FY23 proposed budget and projected trends and assumptions that track with the previous year. However, we are now looking at a $2.5 million deficit in FY26. This increase in the deficit is despite delaying the bonding and cutting back city departments' requests to be able to balance the FY23 budget. Preserving our reserves at appropriate levels, using them only for one-time expenses, and following the fiscal stability budget model helps maintain the stability of our bond rating, which isn't just an empty accolade. Its value is in the significant savings on our debt service, especially during volatile economic times. This March, after our bond rating was reaffirmed at the highest level, AAA stable, I authorized the refinancing of our 2012 bonds that will save the city $432,048 in interest over 10 years, which allows us to put those funds towards other priorities in the general operating budget. This is just the most recent example of the massive benefit the city has experienced by earning the best interest rates on borrowings, which allows us to invest in and maintain our infrastructure and gives us flexibility to deliver on the city's needs. Our bond rating also reflects that the highest and best management practices are present in the city. This helps to draw investors, both commercial and residential, to the city, positively impacting our new growth. We've relied heavily on new growth for additional revenue to meet our budget needs. It took years for the city to attain the AAA bond rating, and a sustained drawdown of reserves will negatively impact it and our revenues for the general fund. The state funding projections built into the budget are always based on the governor's cherry sheet because the state budget process concludes after our budget must be passed. At the time of printing, the House and Senate Ways and Means budgets included a proposed increase in Chapter 70 per student allocation that would increase our state aid by $80,280 for MPS and $3,570 for Smith Voc and Agricultural High School. Additionally, there is a proposal in the House budget to fully fund the charter school reimbursement formula. While that would be appreciated, as the state rarely fulfills the obligation of its own formula, its formula only reimburses the sending district for the first 3 years out of the district and at significantly diminishing percentages. If the House proposal is approved, it would provide an additional $24,428 over the governor's proposed budget for a total reimbursement of $555,317 of the $2,855,588 of charter school sending tuition that is projected to leave the district. Any school-related increases that ultimately get signed in with the final state budget will help the city fund the additional increase voted for by the school committee. There is great need for more state funding for public district schools, which is felt very deeply by Northampton. Northampton's Chapter 70 state school aid has remained stagnant for over 20 years, though, of course, required net school spending, NSS, has increased steadily. The city's general fund makes up and far exceeds the difference in support of the Northampton Public Schools, even with the limit on raising property tax revenue under Proposition 2.5. In FY22, the city's appropriation was $10.9 million, or 33.1% over required net school spending, and it is expected that the FY23 appropriation will be at least $12 million over net school spending. I look forward to working together with the City Council and School Committee to continue to fight for more equitable school funding from the state and to pass the Fair Share Amendment this November. It is hoped that a progressive change like this in the state tax structure will bring in a revenue stream to support the needs of district public education more equitably across the Commonwealth and ease the burden on most Northampton taxpayers in the city budget. But it must pass, and then we must fight to ensure that it is applied in a way that benefits all communities, including Northampton. The second largest increase in appropriation from the general fund at $666,019, and the largest in percent at 112%, is for the proposed transition of the Northampton Health Department to the Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, under the leadership of Commissioner Meredith O'Leary and the creation of the Department of Community Care, DCC, within the structure of DHHS. As noted in my recent administrative order, the arrival in early 2020 of the COVID-19 pandemic radically altered expectations for local public health responses across the country, and significantly so for the Northampton Health Department, which had already established itself as a regional leader in creating sound health policy for Hampshire County. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown the world the critical importance of public health and underscored the need for a transition already underway, that from an inspectional services department to a comprehensive public health and human services department, led by a commissioner of health and human services to better reflect a comprehensive approach to public health. The creation of the DCC is consistent with recommendations in the Northampton Policing Review Commission's final report entitled Reimagining Safety, issued in March 2021, to create a municipal Department of Community Care to provide civilian, non-armed responses to mental health, substance use, and other crises. This plan also fulfills the MPRC's recommendation by situating the DCC under the proposed DHHS as a critical part of the city's human service delivery and response apparatus for a comprehensive public health approach. The DCC joins and benefits from the current NHD's established leadership team's operational capabilities, resources, experience in developing co-responder models for people with substance use disorder, and access to NHD's HIPAA-compliant Health Information Exchange HIE database. The second half of FY22 has laid the foundation for DCC under Implementation Director Sean Donovan, and now with a proposed partnership with the DHHS team. This spring, they are moving forward with creating a training curriculum and job descriptions for peer outreach workers. In FY23, they will hire additional DCC staff, which are allocated for in this budget, develop operating procedures, build out the data, and call referral systems and pilot community responder operations. Senior Services, which had a significant increase last fiscal year to restore positions and services that were reduced during the closure of the senior center during the pandemic, will maintain a level budget. Services are being offered virtually and in person in an effort to reach and meet the needs of seniors while continuing to manage and adjust to pandemic challenges. The city is in the process of hiring a new director who will continue the restoration of staffing and services to pre-pandemic levels. Veteran Services has continued its critical mission of serving our city's veterans, as well as the 10 other communities served by the Central Hampshire Veterans Services District. While the budget shows an almost 9% decrease, the level of service is in no way diminished. In fact, the department has found new ways to do outreach with veterans in need of assistance that limit the risk of transmission of COVID-19. The budget decrease, which continues the trend of the previous 5 years, reflects the adjustment to the benefits line as World War II and Korean War veterans have passed, leaving less veterans receiving benefits. The state Chapter 115 veterans benefits are reimbursed by the Commonwealth at 75% and potentially 100% for veterans who are houseless. Northampton will continue to invest in veteran services to ensure that Northampton veterans receive the benefits they are promised and to fight to keep the Veterans Affairs Central Western Mass healthcare system in Leeds operational. As I reflect on my first 5 months and the completion of my first proposed budget as mayor, I'm aware that the road before us has many challenges. Yet, with such challenges, come the community innovations that make Northampton special. I am daily amazed at the partnerships we are forming to create cutting-edge solutions we hope will better serve the needs of everyone in Northampton and provide a model for others around the country to follow. I am honored to be traveling this road together with you. In Northampton, we have a long tradition of celebrating our progressive values while balancing the need for wide stewardship of public resources dearly shared. I look forward to working with my colleagues in and out of city government to find equilibrium between fiscal responsibility and innovative policy. This budget represents my first step on that path. This is not only my first budget, it is also Finance Director Charlene Nardi's first for the city of Northampton. She has worked tirelessly to bring this budget together, all while answering my endless questions and requests for revisions. Learning from her is a pleasure and a privilege, and we are all extremely fortunate to have another paragon of financial expertise occupying the Finance Director's office in Northampton. I also want to thank the other members of my staff for their remarkable work on this budget, including the design of the new cover, which we're very proud of. As you can imagine by looking at it, producing a document like this is truly a team effort, and they are a wonderful team. Huge thanks go to Mayoral Assistant Court Klein, Administrative Licensing and Economic Development Coordinator Annie Lesko, COVID-19 Economic Recovery Grants Administrator Abby Stone, and Chief of Staff Alan Wolf for their support and their stellar work. I look forward to working with the City Council through the rest of the budget process to answer any questions about this budget proposal or to provide any additional information. Respectfully submitted, Gina Louise Shara, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So this year, there's a little bit of a break in tradition around it. With COVID-19 has caused a little bit of change here, correct, Mayor? In the past, Mayor Narkowitz, on the night of council or the day of when he was going to deliver his budget message, that's the day councilors would receive their budget books. Often, many of us would receive our books while sitting at our desks at council. So, but COVID-19 has changed that a bit, and the practice actually started with Council President Shara of getting the books out to councilors a few days before to allow them a little time to look things over. So it's all to say that this presentation, this is a presentation and an opening to our budget discussion. It's not a time at this moment for us to go into a lot of questions about the mayor's budget. We have hearings that we're going to be doing later on in the agenda. We have some financial orders to consider, and that'll be the time where we can start to discuss the details of the mayor's budget. So unless there's like one clarifying questions are allowed, Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I just want to thank our mayor for such a full, detailed presentation. And I am so impressed with the cover on it. Really, I mean, I think it is just wonderful. But the wordings that you used today, Mayor, came right from your heart about the education in our school, about the COVID, the difficulties that we've all had in the city of Northampton and our businesses and so forth. And the statement you made, I know you care and you will help in any way as our mayor. Thank you for this presentation.
Thank you so much, Councilor. That means the world to me. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Okay, it was a great message, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to the budget hearings, and sorry, it's loud here downtown. And to any questions that you have on May 31st and June 1st, and to your deliberations on June 2nd. So thank you so much for the privilege of letting me present this to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to repeat for those listening in that as the Chair of Finance shared earlier, we will be doing public hearings on May 31st, starting at 6 o'clock, and on June 1st, also starting at 6 o'clock. And that we're, in the meantime, all counselors are available for phone calls, chats over coffee, email discussions. Feel free to reach out to us and to ask us questions and share your thoughts. So thank you, Mayor. And we have a long agenda. And has Lisa shown up yet? I haven't seen her in the, does anybody have Lisa's number?
Laura
Okay.
might have a way of getting a hold of her.
Yeah, so, well, if she shows up, we will revisit that public hearing on the poll petition. I just want to ask, is there anybody here for that particular poll petition? If you could raise your hand, just so we know if you're waiting around. I wouldn't want to have somebody from the public waiting for many hours. All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay. Presentation. Well, now we are going to recess for city services. Do we have to vote on that, Laura?
Not vote to recess, but just the roll call once they convene.
Right.
Okay, so we recess and then it's a roll call to convene city services. Okay, we're going to recess. I hand things over to the Chair of City Services, Councilor Foster.
Thank you, Councilor President Nash.
Your committee.
All right. So we have recessed. We're now in the May 19th committee meeting for city services. We just have one agenda item that's been referred to us that's time sensitive, which is why we're doing it this way. Laura, would you please call the roll for city services?
Sure. Councilor Foster.
Here.
Councilor Gore.
Here.
Councilor Labarge.
Here.
And Councilor Perry.
I'm here.
Okay, before we take this up, Councilor Nash and I had spoken briefly at the beginning. Typically, committee meetings do have an opportunity for public comment. So Mayor, before you introduce this item, I just wanted to check to see if there's anybody here for public comment on the appointment of Central Services Director specifically. Okay, then Mayor Scherer, do you have an introduction to make for us?
Sure. I'm very happy to bring this appointment of Patrick McCarthy to you for Director of Central Services. As you all know, we have been without a director in Central Services for most of this calendar year with the retirement of former Director David Pomeranz. And I'm really excited to be working with Pat. Pat was has been our facilities project coordinator here since 2015. He is, during this time that we've been without a director, he has really sort of been filling in and found himself sort of doing multiple jobs. And he will be a remarkable director of Central Services. He has a wonderful background that I very much appreciate of working in public and affordable housing and doing other project management and construction, and just brings an unbelievable wealth of knowledge and experience to this position. He's also a joy to be with, and is just has a very calming presence, and I think that is a really good quality in a director. He works really well with people and is a wonderful communicator. So I am very, very happy and excited to be putting forward this appointment of Patrick McCarthy, and he is here this evening if you have questions for him.
Welcome, Patrick. It's nice. Thank you for joining us. Just a quick overview of how this will go, because we've recessed during a full council meeting. Any councilor is welcome to participate. Patrick, if you have anything you'd like to say to the committee first, and then I'll open it up to questions.
Sure. I'm humbled and honored to be here before you tonight. I've actually worked with the city of Northampton and in the city of Northampton for the past 22 years. First in my capacity with as a project manager for Valley CDC. I've gone before the council several times asking for support and funding. And as well as doing a small stint as an intern in the planning department back in 2001, working with James Thompson. He was my teacher for a certificate at Holyoke Community College, and that was interesting. And I did a short stint in Springfield between 2012 and 2015, working on the renovation of some of the tornado damaged buildings in Springfield, and also had the opportunity to come back to Northampton. Our agency had purchased the new South Street Apartments, which is located at the Roundhouse behind the Academy of Music. And in 2015, I started working under Dave Pomerantz as the facilities project manager. I have enjoyed that position, and a lot of that position I will maintain, and I'm happy for that. And I'm looking forward to hearing your comments and questions. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor, for your kind words. Very nice.
Thank you. So councilors, it's open now if anybody has comments or questions for Pat. Councilor Mary.
Hi, Patrick. Yes, I was also impressed with your background. I think it's very rich and could bring a lot to this position. And I'm glad that you've already joined us at Energy and Sustainability Commission, because I guess my comment or my question would be, I would just like to hear more about your thoughts on, this new reality with the climate crisis, and how you would integrate that into your decision making and into your department, because it's something I think we're all, each department is going to have and is already doing so, having to think about it every stage. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. One of my interview questions was actually relevant to that, so I had the opportunity to give it some thought. Making the city of Northampton carbon neutral by 2030 is a huge task, and it actually has informed a lot of our decisions since I started working in 2015 with the central services. If we were to have a boiler breakdown, say at the Academy of Music, we actually did a lot of research in trying to find out the most efficient boiler or way to reduce, carbon usage and also energy efficiency. So we've actually been doing that on a day-to-day basis. I think one of my my main understanding is that 2030 is a goal, and that it's going to take a series of very small baby steps to get there. Right now, it seems like a unsurmountable leap to get there by 2030, but it is a spectacular goal. It's very positive, and it informs our day-to-day decisions on how we move forward. Some of my thoughts are that the technology has not, in my opinion, has not caught up to the reality, and that we need to be cautious in our decisions. And, for example, if we replace a boiler at the Academy of Music, it probably has a potential lifetime of 20 to 40 years if maintained properly. And a lot of the new equipment is not, for, electric heat pumps and stuff like that. It's, in my opinion, in its infancy, although I did install one for my father back in 1989, and they're wonderful, but they still, I think, are in their infancy. And I think we need to proceed slowly and, cautiously with each individual decision to make, replacements of equipment in a smart way. And also within, considering the budget. Unfortunately, nothing is cheap. And so I think that by keeping in mind that the goal is an important one and that we need to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis. And eventually we'll get there. I don't know if that answered your question or if you have anything specific.
No, that's what I was interested in, just kind of a broad strokes on your thoughts. And I look forward to hopefully working with you on the Energy and Sustainability Commission.
Same here. Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, thank you. Patrick, I am so happy that you were selected.
Thank you.
Just looking at your resume, Patrick, how could we ever say no? You worked under also with David Pomeroyce, who was a great leader also. He has done a tremendous job here in our city of Northampton. And looking at your resume, you starting here in the city of Northampton in what, 2014 or 2015? You know the ropes, you know what has to be done. And I am very, very pleased of the selection of having you, Patrick, being our Director of Central Service. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Councilor. It was an honor working under Dave Pomerantz. Dave was a fireman in his previous life.
Yeah.
And his personality reflected that. Nothing was a real crisis to Dave.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have the opportunity to work underneath him and gather some of his zen. And I hope I can carry some of that forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
The other Councilor Nash.
Yeah, I had the privilege of serving on the search committee, and Patrick, it was a real pleasure getting to know you during that process. I really appreciate that, your beginnings are as an HVAC technician, and that has led you throughout a varied career that is, when I look at you, as we look at your resume, you've been involved in so many different aspects of managing public buildings and bringing them into online or maintaining them. And that I also appreciated during the interviews, the frankness that you shared here, that the getting to meeting our climate goals, that it's going to be difficult to get there. There's going to be financial choices that we need to make, and we need to be aware of that every step of the way. And that I appreciate what you just shared about the heat pumps being in their infancy, and that the expectation is all of that's going to get better, and that's also going to help us as well. So anyway, I was pleased with you during the search committee, and I'm really glad that you're here tonight for us to consider appointing you.
Thank you, Councilor Nash. I'm humbled and honored. Thank you.
Did any other councilors have anything they wanted to weigh in, a question or comment? Then I'll take a moment to say that, your background, particularly with municipal experience and public housing, it's a great background. And one thing I wanted to do is take a quick peek forward and hear from you what initiatives or plans you're excited to move forward with Central Services.
I think the one of the things that I'm excited about is I think that the energy management systems that the city of Northampton has been wise enough to invest over the years is somewhat underutilized. And I'm excited to have some control to try to, use more of its capacity in service to the city. And I think that's one. I mean, we have two systems. One is automated logic, and the second one is Johnson Controls. All of the building have, excuse me, all of the buildings have one or the other, and that's a head start because I think it gives the an opportunity to not only maintain the existing HVAC equipment that we have, but it also gives us insight on daily operations and also, how to make changes in the future. I'm excited that we have that, and I'd like to use it more. I'd like to get more staff in training and involved in it, and I'm excited about that. Does that answer your question?
I think she might be frozen.
Karen's Zoom is frozen, so I'm going to take over. Are there any other questions from counselors, comments? Councilor Labarge?
Yes, I guess there's no other questions I'm hearing, correct? Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Patrick McCarthy as our new Central Service Director.
I will second that.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Perry. Laura, can you do a roll call?
Sure. Councilor Foster, still don't think she's rejoined. Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councilor Perry.
Yes.
And one more time for Councilor Foster. Can't. Okay. All right, just 3-0 then.
Oh, sorry, Laura, is it possible that she can't unmute?
Let me try.
If she left and then came back, she might not.
That is possible. Let's see. I've momentarily lost her on the list. Okay, let me get down 1 second. No, I don't see her anymore. Do you see her? I saw her. Oh, there she is. You know what? She still is a co-host, but let me try. Councilor Foster.
Oh yeah, she might just be frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, she told me she was frozen, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did hit the ask to unmute. Didn't seem to work, so.
I just got back in.
Okay.
Assuming you're talking about me. Did you? I didn't catch the motion though. What did you need me to do?
There's a motion on the floor to approve the appointment. And we just voted on it, so. Waiting for your vote.
Okay.
Councilor Foster, though, if you'd like to.
I vote
your
yes.
Vote included.
Thank you, Councilor.
I think she's freezing again.
Oh, no.
I think she voted yes, though.
Yes.
Yeah, she voted yes before she disappeared.
I know. There she is.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that passes. It's now a motion to, I guess that we're done with city services at this point, right?
Yes, we can take a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
I'll make a
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Let me see, Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
and Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Okay. City Services has adjourned. Welcome back to the full council. Nice job, Counselor Gore, hopping in there and backing up Counselor Foster as she was going in and out. Nice teamwork. I love it. All right, so we are back, and I'd like to do one more thing and then take a recess because we've been hopping all around here. I'd like to bring up the matter of the mosquito spraying. Let me find that on my agenda here. Way down at the bottom, right?
Yeah, under general orders.
Orders.
That is 11C.
Okay, yes. So, 22.107, an order opting out of mosquito control spraying conducted by the State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board. This is in first reading. And also, my understanding is we're going to want to do this in 2 readings tonight, correct, Laura?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me bring this up. Also, if there's people in the room who'd like to speak to this, we are taking comment on this per the requirements of us opting out. And so feel free to queue up while I do a little entertaining reading here. Whereas pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 252, Section 2B, anyway. The Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs has established a process to permit municipalities to opt out of spraying conducted by the State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board pursuant to Mass General Law. Whereas the process developed by the EEA requires the City Council to take a vote indicating the municipality's intention to opt out of the spraying after consultation with the Board of Health. And whereas at the April 21st, 22 Northampton Board of Health meeting, the board voted to opt out of 2022 aerial mosquito spraying by a majority vote of 5-0. Whereas after receiving notification of the Board of Health's recommendation on May 19th, 2022, at 7 p.m., the City Council held a meeting which councilors accepted public comment, like we're doing now, if anybody's raising their hand, and a copy of the certified vote will be sent to the EEA by May 27th. And now, therefore, the City Council orders as follows, that we want to opt out. So are there any folks who would like to speak to this initiative to opt out? I don't see any hands. I'd like to provide a little background, and counselors feel free to hop in. We did this opt out last year, and we got a lot of public comment on it. We actually jumped through a lot of hurdles to make it happen. And I think it actually didn't happen because we opted out, but we weren't. But there was something that made it so we weren't allowed to do it. But here we are. Do I have that right, Councilor Maori? I see you shaking your head.
Oh, that's not right.
That's not right.
Oh no, yeah, no, we were able to.
We opt out.
I sponsored the order, and we were able to opt out. Is my recollection. Other neighboring towns and cities had trouble. It was a very flawed process. I believe Amherst was not able to, even though they wanted to. And I know Senator Comerford worked really hard this year to make sure that to streamline the application process.
Right.
But it was my understanding that we were able to opt out.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's good news. So it worked last year, and we're going to make it work again this year. And I think that based on the Board of Health has taken this action to get us to us today, so that we can act in a timely manner. I'm going to recommend that we do this. Counselors, any other thoughts on this opt-out? Wow. Okay. Counselor Mayor, you want to just add something from
Well,
the,
you know how back to being in the pocket of Big B. As I said last year, the issue with aerial spraying is it's non-discriminate. You know, it kills everything that it touches. So there are ways to use these products more selectively via truck and if they're necessary. So, but the state really only offers us to either opt in or out in terms of the aerial spraying. So I would strongly encourage my fellow counselors to support opting out so that we as a municipality have control over what happens in our city.
Counselor Jarrett?
I just really want to recognize Councilor Maori's work from last year to make this happen, and you know, continued initiative. And for me, I'm really following the Board of Health here. You know, I trust their recommendations, and we'll support this.
Thank you, Counselor Jarrett. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, we're hoping to do a second reading tonight. So I think we need a motion to suspend the rule so we can do the reading tonight.
Move we suspend the rule.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Elkins and seconded by Counselor Jarrett to suspend the rule to have second reading on this order tonight. Any discussion? Seeing none. Laura?
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
okay, Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
and Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, we have suspended the rule. Do I have a motion to approve this order? I'm going to give it to Counselor Jarrett because as the motion, I cut him off, and then the second's going to go to Counselor Labarge. What the heck?
Aren't you nice?
Everybody's doing it, helping out
I
here.
know.
Okay, so any discussion on approving this order to opt out of mosquito control spraying? Seeing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, that has passed and we will be opting out of mosquito control spraying. Excellent. All right. And so I'm going to suggest we take a 10-minute break. Let's come back at 8:45. And I'm hoping we can get Lisa here so we can do that public hearing on the poll petition. And if not, we'll just keep rolling through our agenda here.
I did email Lisa and got an away message from her till the 23rd. So apparently maybe there was supposed to be a coverage or something. It seems that she's, so yeah, I think we're not expecting her.
Okay. Use your 10 minutes wisely.
Thank you.
I'd like to next go to brokers fees. If everybody's, well, let me check one more thing. Do we see Lisa yet? Or anybody, is anybody from National Grid here? I'm
No.
not seeing anybody. So Laura, if they don't show up, we're just going to have to reschedule that hearing, right?
I'm afraid so, yes.
All right, because they're the petitioners, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, if they show up by the end of the meeting, we'll do a quick poll petition. All right. Next, I'd like to go to brokers fees because we received looks like about 5-6 people referring to the brokers fees during public comment. Let's see. Item 22.043, an order for special legislation to prohibit landlords and brokers from requiring brokers' commissions to be paid by a tenant or prospective tenant. This is on second reading. It's been referred to the Northampton Housing Partnership, Community Resources, and Legislative Matters. Positive recommendation from the Housing Partnership, public forum held by Community Resources. Councilor Jarrett introduced 2 amendments, which are part of the legislation here. Let's see, what else? Positive recommendation as amended by Community Resources. Positive recommendation as amended by Legislative Matters. A question was raised at the Community Resources meeting about whether a voluntary relationship between a broker and a tenant would be prohibited under the proposed legislation. Attorney Seawald's response was as follows: nothing in the proposed special act modifies the voluntary relationship between the prospective tenant and a broker. The act would prohibit a leaser from compelling a prospective tenant to pay the leaser's broker or compelling the tenant to engage and pay a broker. Note number 2, Councilor Nash requested this item be placed on the 5/19 agenda and that both versions of the proposed act be presented for discussion. He would like the City Council to vote to approve the amendments. Yeah, that sounds like something I asked for. Okay. Yeah, so we have basically, my wish there was that that amendments and as things go out to committee and come back to us, that amendments are approved by the full council, and that that we're all playing a part in building the legislation. So let's see, opinion, proposed amendments. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the legislation. And I'm not sure, I don't feel a need to read this at this time. Are people, Councilor Jarrett, would you like just to run through your proposed amendments real quick, and then we'll put this on the floor?
Sure. So you suggest that I run through the amendments and then we put it through as amended? We put it on the floor as amended?
Yeah, I actually, yes, let's put it on the floor as amended.
Okay, so the amendments are that so we received some, so one is just a Scrivener's error in the first section. And the second one is a clarification. And we received some concern from brokers that this would prohibit prohibit them from requiring a tenant to work with them, and as different from requiring a tenant to pay them. And that was never the intention. We understood that if a landlord engaged a broker and then a tenant wanted to use that landlord to rent from that landlord, that they would be working with that broker. So the language, which we see up on the screen, in section 2 is no landowner, landlord, lessor, or sublessor shall demand or require that a tenant or prospective tenant, and then we added, this was Attorney Seawald's language, retain, hire, or, and then engage a rental agent or broker, and then we added, and pay such agent or broker a fee or commission as a condition of applying for or leasing a residential rental unit in the city of Northampton. So we just wanted to make it absolutely clear that this was just about the fee. This was not about preventing brokers from doing their business. So with that, I will move the order as amended.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Jarrett, seconded by Counselor Perry. This item is on the floor for second reading, meaning it's up for approval. And any discussion? Counselor Jarrett.
Well, I just really wanted to thank all of the bodies that this was referred to, the Housing Partnership for taking it up, they really helped shepherd this into existence in the first place. And then Community Resources, Counselor Perry for chairing the excellent public forum where I think it was over 2 hours, and we heard from a whole variety of viewpoints on the issue. And then also in legislative matters, thank my fellow members there for taking that up as well. So we just really appreciate that process, and then our mayor for also being a co-sponsor with us and being at that forum, listening to everyone, and giving her thoughts on it. So everyone who's been involved so far, just really want to appreciate. It's been a process. I've gone out and met with brokers, listened to landlords, listened to tenants, and do believe that through that this is a good path forward. It's only one of many paths that I believe we need to take to end the Fair Housing Report from 2019 has a number of other recommendations that I hope we will take up. So thank you all.
Thank you, Counselor Jarrett. Counselor Maori.
I want to second that, and thanks to Counselor Jarrett and also the mayor. It was kind of great that the mayor got on board as a counselor and then took another angle as the mayor. It was very convenient, and I thank her for that. Right, and for our kind of tireless advocates, Ace, I know I'll call him Hannah. I mean, the Unlocking Opportunities report and that work really gave this legs, and this is exactly how those kinds of in-depth reports I think are supposed to work. That they get out there, and then folks like us counselors can run with that. And also wanted to thank the public. I thought we had some really thoughtful discussions, very nuanced. I learned a lot about our community and how it's working. And just to say, this is a long process, and we're going to need to advocate it during the state hearing. So let's all remember to kind of keep engaged on this, because it's clear it's something we want, but it's going to take a little bit more muscle to get it through. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Counselor Moulton.
Yes, just to add to what Councilors Jarrett and Maori have said, I too listened to the 2 hours of very illuminating, I found, testimony during the public forum. Have read all the correspondence that we've received and talked to landlords and tenants. And I think tonight we're really representing a group, tenants, who don't always have a voice. Some are among the most vulnerable in our community, and I think this is a small step we can take to attempt to level the playing field of the housing marketplace, and that's why I am supportive of this.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Counselor Gore.
I just want to reiterate what everyone else said. And as a tenant and a renter myself, I think that this home rule petition is really needed, and especially in our city where we have this broker fee issue. And I just think that this will really help a lot of tenants and a lot of renters, because broker fees have been a barrier for me for housing before in the past. And so I know it's definitely a barrier to housing for people.
Counselor Foster.
Also just wanted to thank the sponsors and acknowledge again my gratitude for the public process and the amount of opportunities folks have had to weigh in. I've definitely had correspondence with people people very much in favor of this, and some landlords concerned about what the impact that this may have. And it was brought up earlier how yes, these fees may be rolled into the rent. Yes, there are tax breaks, but it's the upfront costs. It's really such a tremendous barrier. And, thank you sponsors for bringing this forward and one step along the way to reducing some of the move-in costs for folks.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes, I also want to thank the sponsors. We're in dire need to have this order coming in front of us. We have heard for, I don't know how long, how it's so expensive to even rent in the city of Northampton. And, you look at another $1,000, that's another $1,000 coming out of their pockets, which takes away from them from getting food or whatever. This is the right way to go. It has to be done. So thank the sponsors very much for having the hearings. We heard people speak, and it made sense to do what we had to do here. So thank you to the sponsors.
Counselor Perry.
Well, since we're all speaking here, I also want to reiterate that I think this is a very important step in the right direction to helping to add some diversity to the community here in Northampton. And I do also want to say that I am very proud to be part of this council, because we are taking, this is not just one step. We're also, they're changing zoning laws. We are really trying to be proactive and attack the situation from as many angles as possible. So it's been really nice to see how forward thinking this city and this community is to handle this issue. And as a renter myself, like Councilor Gore, this hits close to home. And listening to hours of comments really kind of showed me a lot of the different angles. And it's not just for people moving in to a new house, but it also, these fees have been keeping people in situations because they don't want to try and find another place. And so I think that this is, again, a nice stepping stone to try and alleviate this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, anybody else? All right, I'm going to go. All right, the thing that really stood out for me was that the range of services that brokers bring to the table are so much in service of the property owner, the person leasing the apartment, that it struck me like, so you're paying somebody to bring you into somebody's apartment to show it to them and to do a background, do the checks on your employment history and your credit history. That's not in service of you, that's in service of the person who is looking to rent their apartment. And that it's not like you go into those situations where you want to hide stuff, but you're ready to share it. But the other side of the table needs to do a little work here. And I think this properly resides on the side of the table of the landlord. And that is the practice most everywhere else in the country. In New England, we have this odd thing we do here. And I think it gets back to the scarcity of apartments, of housing, and that really, it makes things a lot more difficult. So I think that this is actually, in my mind, it's just like a economic correction, that it really should be, that the landlord should be paying for this. And I think Ace has made that really terrific point that, in terms of the bigger picture, it's a cost center for somebody who owns property, and they can write it off. Whereas for somebody who's, looking to rent a place, that, you don't have cost centers like that. So anyway, so I am going to be in support of this, and thanks to the sponsors and also council and everybody, great work on doing the public outreach here. We really did get a lot of, everybody had an opportunity to step forward and be part of this. And the other thing is, I just want to say something. During one of the public, during one of our committee forums, somebody mentioned that this was, Northampton was proving that it was once again not business friendly. And I just wanted to, say that, yeah, I can see how you might go there on this one, although I view it as a correction. But, that came on the heels of us just, as Councilor Perry had noted, that we had expanded our zoning in the downtown area and in the Florence Center to be more business friendly. I mean, we're making huge strides to, encourage our business community. As Councilor Perry also mentioned, the city is using resources to bring people to Northampton, that we're helping to pay for Summer on Strong, that we're paying for the Christmas lights, that, there's lots of business friendly things that the city is doing. And we are not an anti-business council. We're in this, I view us in this case as simply, we're helping make a correction to join what's going on in the rest of the country. So anyway, Councilor Maori.
You just inspired me. I just have to add that, what you're saying is correct, that part of having a healthy community is having people, reasonably be able to stay in the communities they love. And that's a healthy community, and that's a healthy business environment. So I just wanted to add to your statement.
Thank you. Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call on approving this order for special legislation to prohibit landlords and brokers from requiring brokers' commissions to be paid by a tenant or prospective tenant. Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Bolton.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Councilor Jarrett.
Thank you. And I believe, so the next step is that this now goes to the mayor, and then the mayor sends it on to the state. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you very, very much. And we will move forward this home rule petition. And thank you, Councilor Maori, for making the point that our job is not done with this. This is not now accomplished. We need to get this, get the legislature to agree to allow us to do this. So as soon as we know more about how we can all engage in that process, we'll let you know. Thanks.
All right. And Councilor Jarrett, thank you for raising your hand, and so we could add that bit of information in here. Okay, so the hopping around will continue. I noticed that Bob Bullrice is in the room, and I know he's been sat through many of our meetings waiting for us to get to his item here. And so I'd like to bring up the ranked choice voting All right, where did it go? Here it is. Item 22.072, in order for special legislation relative to ranked choice voting in the city of Northampton. I think we're all pretty familiar with this right now. This has gone out to, let's see, all of the, so this came out of the ranked choice voting committee. It's been to city services, legislative matters, and the board of registrars. Positive recommendations from all of those. Positive recommendation, board of registrars on split vote of 2 yes, 1 no, 1 vacant. Registrar Tarantino voiced concern that changing the voting procedure is a solution in search of a problem. He is not convinced that this is a better way to elect a representative body. He is concerned that the process is outcome oriented, that the process is defined with the end result in mind. That was his vote against positive recommendation, but this has received positive recommendations from all of these other committees, including the Board of Registrars. I'll entertain a motion to put this on the floor. Is this
so moved? Move for approval.
Second.
And this is on second reading, correct?
Yes, second reading.
Okay. Okay, yes, so motion made by Councillor Moulton and seconded by who?
Councilor Labarge.
Councillor Labarge. And that, all right, this is on the floor. Councillors, discuss. Councillor Moulton.
Just say briefly that one of the underlying themes of the work of the Charter Review Committee in 2019 was to encourage an expanded electorate, make it easier to vote in Northampton, increase diversity in municipal government. I believe that the use of ranked choice voting in other communities suggests that those goals will be met by adopting ranked choice voting. I appreciate the hard work that the committee chaired by Bob Bullrice and Kathy Kay put in on this. The recommendation that that we adopt a system that will keep everyone's votes in the running and distribution through the entire process is the correct one. And this is the last piece of that work of the Charter Review Committee, and I urge its adoption. And I'll echo what was said about the rental brokers fees home rule petition as well for this one. We're going to have to continue to work hard to get it through the legislature and then educate the community about its use.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jarrett.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Moulton. I would second all of that and agree that it is complicated. The description is complicated, but it makes great sense once you understand it. So a lot of our work will be making sure that people understand it. I also just wanted to clarify that we are moving the redlined version that's indicated on the agenda, not the other version, because the other version does not contain the amendments at that. So just wanted to confirm that.
Thank you. Redlined version. Got it. Laura, does that hold in terms of the motion on the floor to go with the redlined version?
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? The mayor.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilor Foster. I thought there was no more discussion. I just wanted to I wasn't able to be at your first reading of this. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to really thank the committee that worked so hard on this, and the chair, Bob Volrice. I know that this was not an easy task. And so I just want to give you my heartfelt thanks for all the work that went into doing this with the city solicitor, and so that we can have a strong home rule petition to put forward. So thank you very much.
Councillor Foster.
Also, just wanted to chime in with my gratitude to the committee for really, there was a lot of nitty gritty to work on to figure out exactly how ranked choice voting would work, and really appreciated you taking that deep dive and your availability for the public process and for council and committee meetings. You know, you've done some great work, and you know, as others have said, of course, we'll you know, our next steps after home rule petition and working with the legislature is going to be educating the community. But I have confidence we can do this, and that voters will be interested and engaged. And you know, I do think that this will improve our elections in Northampton.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Councillor Maori.
And save money. We all like to save money. We're going to need you know, we need every little, you know, turn we can. And this does that. I mean, we don't have to have runoffs and primaries and all that. So that's, to me, a very compelling reason to go for it.
Anyone else? Okay, yeah, I want to thank everybody who worked on this, especially Bob. Bob, I've seen you lingering in meetings for months watching this in the background as it creeps through. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to say this is the last item that Councillor Dwight had his fingerprints on. I mean, maybe we want to keep it around just so we can keep it lingering, but I think that this is a great way to, you know, send Councillor Dwight into his retirement, you know, with ranked choice voting. So I'm going to vote to approve this. All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Laura, roll call on approving an order for special legislation relative to ranked choice voting in the city of Northampton.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori. Oops, is she frozen? Councillor Maori? Perhaps.
Rose.
Yeah. Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I hear Councillor Maori. Okay, very good.
Yes. Bad connection, but yes.
And Councillor Moulton was.
Yes.
Your response. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that passes. And as Councillor Jarrett pointed out with the previous item, that this will go to the mayor, and the mayor will send it off to the State House as part of for approval for special legislation. And we will need to all work to advocate for this. Okay. All right. I think I'll stop doing everything out of order. And that I don't think that we're going to see National Grid this evening. So I'm going to bring us up to the consent agenda, and I'm going to read through it. And then I am definitely going to ask that we remove the poll, approving the poll on Clark Street, because we weren't able to have that hearing. So the consent agenda has the minutes of March 17th, 2022, March 31st, 2022, and April 14th, 2022. There's that order for Clark Street. Next, we have an order to appropriate CPA funds for Shepherd Barn Historic Preservation Project. We have an order to appropriate $664,068 in CPA funds to the Valley CDC for Prospect Place Housing Project. We have an order to acquire property located on Sylvester Road. We have an order to approve budgetary transfers in second reading. We have an order to authorize borrowing of $22.5 million for sludge dewatering, clarifier, plant water system, and SCADA upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. We have the appointment of Patrick McCarthy as Central Services Director, and we had that City Services gave that a positive recommendation earlier today. We have appointments to various committees for referral to City Services. We have Dennis Nolan for the Board of Assessors. We have Jason Perry for the Conservation Commission. And we have Joella Tarbutton Springfield to the Northampton Housing Authority. And these are referral to City Services. Okay. I'm going to trust all of that's correct. So that's what's on the consent agenda. Any requests for removals? Councilor Jarrett.
I'd like to remove 22.102, appointment of Patrick McCarthy as Central Services Director.
Okay. All right. Any others? Well, as I said, I'd like to remove the 22.081, the poll petition for Clark Street. Okay, any other removals? Seeing none, this is the consent agenda and there's no discussion. Oh, I need a motion. There we go. I always do that.
Move approval.
Second.
I think, I know it was Councilor Foster. I think it was Councilor Perry who seconded it. We'll go with that.
I did, Jim.
Yeah, but you got to share a little. Okay. So Laura, roll call, please.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins. Councilor Elkins, I'm sorry, was that?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
and Councilor Nash.
Yes. Okay. So there were two items removed. One is the Clark Street poll petition. And Laura,
We'll move it forward to the next agenda, whenever we
Okay.
schedule the hearing again.
And the other item had to do with Patrick McCarthy, and Councilor Jarrett has a really good reason why. Councilor Jarrett.
I'm going to recuse myself. My business Pedal People has a pre-existing contract with Central Services Department. So just to remove any possible conflict of interest or ethics question, I'll recuse myself for this appointment.
Smart move.
Thank you, Councilor Jarrett. Any more discussion on this item? Hold it. Do we have a motion to approve this? I guess we need a motion to approve it, right?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Moulton. Any discussion? I just want to say that over the next few weeks, we're going to see Councilor Jarrett doing this step of recusing himself for having to do with various matters, having to do with central services. And I just want to underline how, in my mind, this really demonstrates how ethically sound he is, that this in no way, the fact that he's got to recuse himself or that he's choosing to recuse himself from these matters is some sort of implication of something is awry here. It's really him, making efforts to make sure that all of his work on council is extremely ethical. And I just want to applaud him for that. And I'm going to keep doing that every time he recuses himself. So anyway, so that's on the floor. Any more comments?
No.
Discussion? Councillor Foster.
Just very briefly, because my screen and Zoom froze at such an inopportune time. I just wanted to say that I enthusiastically support this appointment. I couldn't say that during city services, so glad we had this opportunity.
Thank you. Yes, and that does come to us with a positive recommendation from city services. Okay. Seeing no more discussion, Laura, roll call on approving Patrick McCarthy as Central Services Director.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
and Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Okay. The appointment of Patrick McCarthy passes. Okay, terrific. And that's great because when we hear from Central Services, we'll have a director reporting to us. It's really terrific. All right. Next up, financial orders. Okay, I'm going to just start going into these. We have 2 financial orders that we can speak to. Then we have a bunch of budget-related items. And we'll get to those. And all right, let's start with 22.108, an order to surplus and transfer property located at 196 Cook Avenue for affordable housing, parking, and conservation. This is in first reading. Whereas the city purchased 196 Cook Avenue with authority from City Council. Initially, the city identified the parcel for an animal control facility and limited parking to serve the adjacent Broadbrook Fitzgerald Lake Greenway, whereas the mayor has since identified a different site for the animal control facility. The city council hereby declares the portion of the site not identified for conservation parking as surplus to city needs. Further, city council authorizes the mayor to sell or transfer such surplus property for affordable housing or mixed income housing with such conditions and restrictions as the mayor imposes. Further, city council authorizes the mayor to transfer the land dedicated for parking and related conservation to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission to add to the Fitzgerald Lake Broadbrook Greenway. And further, the city council authorizes the mayor to execute such documents and instruments as may be necessary to achieve the purposes of this order. And to frame discussion, the mayor is here. Mayor, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, I would. Hi, counselors. As I'm sure you all now know, we've reached an agreement with Smith Folk and Agricultural High School to build the animal control facility on their campus. So as we have covered in the last 5 months, the quest for a location for the very needed animal control facility has been going on for many, many years. I inherited this quest from my predecessor, who tirelessly looked at locations and researched locations, including having many conversations with Smith Folk. During the transition time back in December with Mayor Narkowitz, he and I went over every location that they looked at in the city and why they were not possibilities, including Smith Folk. Then, of course, the breakthrough happened earlier this calendar year, on another location that the city had been interested for years, but was too expensive for acquisition, that being the former Moose Lodge at the end of Cook Avenue, which this winter, the sellers agreed on what the city thought was a reasonable offer. I don't need to go into the rest of the history because we lived it together. As mayor, I am now a trustee on the board of Smith Folk, and a few days after the council voted to approve the purchase of Cook Avenue, I was talking with another trustee, Dr. Julie Spencer Robinson, and she had been reading about the vote in the paper and knew how hard it had all been. And she suggested that with Smith Folk not renewing the lease on the Greenfield Community College LPN program that they have there, and with the interest that she was aware of growing the animal science program at Smith Folk and the companion animal concentration, which would use the building that the LPN program was leaving, that perhaps this conversation could be opened up again. You can imagine my shock. You can imagine like a few face palms. After I kind of got over it in 24 hours, I reached out to Superintendent Lincoln Hoker to start the conversation. He agreed that we could discuss this again. We had what I would say it was a magical site visit there. It was magical because one, it was a beautiful day. We all sort of looked around and agreed, including Pat McCarthy was there, that this would be a great location. As we were there looking at the location, llamas walked by us, and then some beautiful horses walked by on their daily constitutional at Smith Folk. And we answered questions on both sides and sort of addressed each other's concerns. And I think we all left feeling quite excited because not only is this location great, but it addresses a lot of the concerns that we have heard from the various other locations that we have tried. And in addition to that, for me, it's really exciting because it creates an opportunity for shared use and infrastructure with Smith Folk, because they will be converting their building to sort of similar uses to the building that we need. And importantly, there's potential for learning opportunities for students with our building and facility. So the Smith Folk trustees had a special meeting on April 26th, and the trustees voted to move forward with the plan. And then at our meeting this past Tuesday, we voted to surplus the portion of the land from school purposes and to transfer the care and custody and control to the city for redesignation as the animal control facility. And you will see on your agenda at our next meeting on June 2nd, an order to assign custody and control of the surplus parcel for use as the animal control facility on your end. So this was a lot of information to bring us to this order that you have in front of you right now, but I'll say if there is anyone that Wayne and I want to celebrate closing this loop with, it's you all, because we went through quite a time together. So this order is to surplus some of the lot at Cook Avenue for affordable or mixed income housing. It would be, I think, perfect for Habitat for Humanity units, but we have actually been creating more units for Habitat faster than they can use them. So we'll have to see whether this will fit in with their plans. But my priority would be for these to be affordable units. And the goal is still to retain some conservation parking on this lot. So that is where we are here today. And I know Wayne, Director Fiden, is also here if you have any sort of specific questions. But thank you for going along on this ride with me, and I like where we've ended.
Thank you.
So does Wayne want to say something, or?
Yeah, I'd like to talk with Wayne.
Wayne, you have something to share?
The mayor is talking going full circle on the animal control facility. I'll add, we're going full circle on 196 Cook. When we first made an offer on this property a decade ago, it was for exactly what we're talking about now. It was for affordable housing and parking for the conservation area. And the mayor did the ribbon cutting at the wall raising at Habitat's most recent property. And at the time, she pledged and said, we want to keep supplying Habitat with all the lots that they need to keep them in affordable housing. And that's why we looked at this property 10 years ago, and that's why we're back to it now. So I don't want you to think it's just a reject from an animal control facility. It's a good use for the property.
Anybody else from the city want to speak, or?
Yes, I'd like to speak to Wayne.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Labarge. I was just making sure there wasn't anybody else who wanted.
Wayne, how many acres is that now for affordable housing?
Well, there is a lot of wetlands in the property, so we need to do more diligence of how much has actually worked for the site. So we did enough due diligence to know it could house an animal control facility, which is basically the same footprint as 2 affordable units, but we haven't done enough due diligence to know, could we do more? So what we're saying is we're gonna do a minimum of 2 units and a maximum of 4 units, but we don't have enough information to answer between those.
Okay.
Our priority right now is we want to tear down the Moose Lodge, which does create some liability.
Yeah.
So my office is moving towards releasing an RFP. The mayor put aside money in community development block grant to pay for the actual demolition. So once the building's down, then we're going to focus on the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councilors, any other questions? Councilor Maori, yep. Oh, we need to
Councilor Foster might have had a question first, though.
Oh.
I do, but I can wait. Thank you.
Everybody's so little, I can't see them. All right. Councilor Maori, you have the floor, and then Councilor Foster.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I must say, when we were voting on the Cook Avenue the first time, I was actually more sold on the city just having that land and kind of maintaining the access to the conservation land, and even the, you know, I was supportive of the facility, but really the land. So I'm glad to hear. I just want to confirm for folks listening that you're going to work with residents and keep some amount of access to Fitzgerald Lake trails there for them.
That's correct. And some parking as well.
Parking. Oh, great. Excellent. Yeah. And I do have to wonder what former Mayor Narkowitz, it's probably bittersweet. There's probably lots of complicated feelings about landing that. I hope you tormented him a little bit about it, Mayor, but anyway.
Councilor Foster.
Yeah, it was pretty tremendous news to learn that the conversation with Smith Folk was reopened and they were receptive to the animal control facility. So I definitely commend the relationship building and the time and the patience that goes into all of these things happening behind the scenes. I just had a question about the financial order because I hear you saying the priority is affordable housing and hopefully for Habitat. The order itself says affordable or mixed rate. And I just wanted to check on sort of what conditions would lead it to be mixed or what that could look like. Just because I have definitely heard that preference for affordable and I know what the need is.
So the mayor mentioned that Habitat, we've been very successful creating lots and they haven't necessarily been able to keep up. So we're looking at, are there any models that are out there? We're doing a project right now, right next to Habitat, building 3 units where Emerson Way LLC, which is a for-profit company, is creating 4 units because of some incentives we built into zoning and subdivision regulations. So one of the things that's occurred to us is there, if the site, again, big if, but if the site could accommodate 4 units, is it possible to find a developer, a for-profit developer, who would do 2 market rate units and 2 affordable units? We've done this a couple of times. We did it on Turkey Hill Road, at the Emerson Way piece, on Ice Pond Drive. So it's not as common a model, but at least it's one we want to leave the option open as we do due diligence.
Councilor Jarrett.
Thanks. It's a wonderful outcome. I wondered if there's an opportunity for an alternative stormwater system, such as rain gardens, to absorb the runoff from the parking, that because we'll be expanding the parking and I assume putting in a impervious surface rather than currently it's a gravel, which I guess is actually somewhat impervious too. But so either pervious surfaces or a different runoff, if that will be part of the process.
Yeah, we're certainly going to look at all those options. The standard for the Conservation Commission, and if we hit DPW thresholds for them, is that we have less peak runoff or no more peak runoff than we have today. The issue is once there's a coefficient of absorption basically, and for asphalt, you assume it's something like close to 98% of the water is not going through the asphalt. Compacted gravel is not that much more permeable. I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere around 95%. But certainly we're look at it. Pervious pavement really only works well in places, or very well in places like Florence, where you have pretty permeable soil. So we'd have to look at the soil below and see how wet is it. Drainage swales are much easier, frankly, and inexpensive. But yes, that'll be part of our due diligence going forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Moulton.
Yeah, I too think this is a great outcome. I want to thank the mayor for moving quickly when the opportunity presented itself to reopen conversation with Smith Vocational. I've heard no opposition from neighbors to this use of the property. I think affordable housing or mixed use is great for that location. The only lingering concern, I think, is the amount of parking. So I just like to have assurance that neighbors will continue to be heard in terms of how much parking is designated there.
Yeah, I can add. I mean, we pledged to another neighborhood meeting. I don't, we have to figure out. So we have a request from Broad Brook Coalition for up to 20 parking spots. We certainly want to meet with the neighborhood. There's actually an email that came to many of the councilors during this meeting that's from just one neighbor saying, I think she said 10 to 15. I think the universe we're looking at is a minimum of 10, a maximum of 20. And I have no dog in the fight, I guess is the right expression. I think we'll go with whatever the majority wants from us. Though I will say, we don't want enough parking that eliminates the affordable units. That's the other part we need to look at, is how much space does each take.
Yes, I agree, Director, that it needs to be a balance both with the use for affordable housing, but also with not creating more traffic problems for the neighborhood.
Agreed.
I could just add, it seems wrong to use a dog saying, but my dog in the fight would be that I wouldn't want to sacrifice a home for someone for parking, but we want to, we do want to keep access to Fitzgerald Lake and to allow some, some parking that people have been enjoying, but we want to, I want to prioritize homes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes, I just wanted to say that this really is one of those feel-good stories here. I know this, as the mayor said, this has been something that previous administrations have been working on and previous councils have been working on. And I'm glad to see that we were able to stick the landing, as they say. And I also wanted to say that during the discussion about this animal control site, there was a lot of talk about the council not being receptive to the needs of the city and the constituents. And I do want to say that I think a lot of effort was put in to really listen to everyone's feelings. And this is a testament to our constituents of keeping this issue in everyone's ears, so that when our mayor was talking to another trustee, they saw how difficult it was to restart and that started the process of restarting this conversation. So hopefully everyone knows that we are trying to listen to the concerns of all the citizens, and I'm really glad that in the end this is a win-win for everyone.
Councillor Gore.
I'm really glad of this outcome, and it was really good for the neighbors of that area, because I know they really didn't want that animal control center. But I know there was another concern that this land was native land at one time, and I wonder if there was going to be any kind of like land acknowledgement of that or anything like that going forward from now on.
You know, I've certainly all of Northampton is native land. We've been adding acknowledgements to a lot of things that we do. You know, my office just added acknowledgement on our website, in our comprehensive plan. I'm not, I mean, I heard somebody say it, we're not aware of any evidence that this site more than all of North, you know, there are obviously settlements along the river. We're not aware that this site had more settlements than other places, but I mean, generally we're doing acknowledgements on our website and our plans, and we were trying to do acknowledgements whenever aware of a unique site.
Counselors. Okay, where did this go? There's my agenda. Yeah, so yeah, this is a great outcome, Mayor. I just really nicely done, and I know you wished it happened a little bit sooner, the timing were. But yeah, this is a terrific outcome, and the thought of, you know, this, the animal control facility being at Smith Voc, that makes sense. Having some folks have affordable housing in the, you know, in a lovely quiet neighborhood that, you know, backs up on Fitzgerald Lake, and, you know, I picture families and kids like having all of those trails as their access. That's wonderful. And so, oh, and I also want to say that Mayor Narkowicz is probably watching a Celtics game right now and not even thinking about this, but I do know, as the mayor knows, that he worked hard to try to get this over at Smith Voc, and that a real shout out to Julie Spencer Robinson for, you know, revisiting it one more time with the mayor. And, you know, persistence always is, it once again, it pays off. So this is great. So any more discussion on this? Where is this? This is in first reading, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we can send it to finance, or we can put it on the consent agenda for our next meeting.
Move to send it to the consent agenda.
Motion made by Councilor Moulton and seconded by
Councilor Labarge.
Councilor Labarge. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, Laura.
Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, that goes in order to surplus and transfer property located at 196 Cook Avenue for affordable housing, parking, and conservation. That goes to the consent agenda for our next meeting. Next up is item 22.109. In order to acquire property located off Coles Meadow Road to add to the Broadbrook Fitzgerald Lake Greenway. I'm thinking Wayne is here. Wayne, rather than me reading, do you want to describe what we're doing here?
Sure. This is the biggest inholding we have in this greenway. So about 80% of the greenway is south of this property, the Andros property. About 20% is north. And the land's not posted, so you could walk from one part to the other, but it's a gap in our greenway. We actually named the greenway aspirationally. So it's two areas, but we named it as if it was one area because we had hoped we'd connect them. So this is the final connection. We actually made an offer in 2014 for the property. And the owner just reached out to us about a week and a half ago and said, hey, you know, that offer you made in 2014, we'd like to accept that. We don't know the exact cost. We have an agreement on a price per acre, which is based on the assessed value. We don't know the exact acreage until we survey it. So our estimate is $2,000 an acre. Our estimate's 25 acres, which will be $50,000, but it's going to be plus or minus a little bit for when the survey comes in. Broadbrook Coalition just met last week, and they've generously pledged $15,000 towards the purchase. We already had $10,000 from CPA on hand and $25,000 from past donations. So we have all the money. It, you know, empties out all of our open space accounts, so we don't have money for the next one, but this one's important enough. We think it's worth going for.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Councillor Labarge.
Right. I'm so happy that these residents came forth, Wayne. You're looking at 25 acres. That's quite a bit of acreage, and we're filling that gap. And I think it's very, very critical here at 2,000 per acre. And we already know we have money to accommodate that price. So I support this 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Labarge. Councillor Jarrett.
Yeah, this is great to connect these conservation areas, you know, all the way up to the Hatfield line. I have wandered up in this area, and I wondered, is there a plan to cross Broadbrook with a trail and have trails up in this area, or will it be preserved as a wilder section? Is that known?
It's not known. I mean, philosophically, our approach is always the more active a volunteer group is, the more we empower them to make those decisions. Broadbrook is one of our most active partners, so we would probably let them make the decision. Most of Broadbrook is very wide and difficult to cross, but there is one place very close to this property where it makes a sharp turn, and you could build a bridge across it. So it's certainly feasible to do, but I think, as I say, we probably defer to Broadbrook on that decision.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. This is also in first reading. I will enter Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to place this on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Jarrett. To put this on the consent agenda, this is in order to acquire property located, yeah, am I reading the right one? Yeah, off Coles Meadow Road to add to the Broadbrook Fitzgerald Lake Greenway. Any discussion on this motion to send it to the consent agenda? Hearing none. Roll call, Laura.
Councillor Gore,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori. I don't see her, although, okay, we'll come back to her. Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
and just one more try for Councillor Maori.
Yes.
See, persistence paid off again. Okay, so that has been passed. The motion is passed to send that to the consent agenda. How's everybody doing?
Fine. How about a 5-minute break?
All right, let's do I like that, a 5-minute break. So we'll be back at 9:55.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, we have, so we have a number of items here related to the budget.
Mhm.
And that item C through item H, nope, I,
Item C, D, E, F, G, and H.
yes, thank you, Counselor. And that, so we'll have to do something with Counselor Jarrett, and that that we are doing public hearings here on the budget, and that I would entertain a motion to refer these items to the Finance Committee, as they're holding the public hearings on the budget of which these orders are related to. Counselor Jarrett.
Before that motion gets made.
Yes, very good.
Let me read a little statement. So as a member of the Pedal People Cooperative, I have a financial interest in the decisions that are made regarding the Locust Street Transfer Center, which is part of the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. So I'm going to recuse myself for that one. And then for the general fund, I can't participate due to a conflict of interest, as Pedal People has a pre-existing contract with the Central Services Department. And I know for when we do debate on June 2nd, we're going to divide the motion, divide the question, so that I'll be able to participate on everything but that item. But for the referrals, that's not possible. So I'm just going to let you all make those decisions about the referrals, and we'll join that debate later.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor Jarrett. Okay, so we don't have a motion yet, but I just want to say, once again, Alex is doing the right thing, and I really appreciate it. Counselor Labarge.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we send items C through H to Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on these items? Okay. Hearing no discussion, this is a motion to send items C through H to the Finance Committee for a recommendation. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
and Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay. That has been sent to Finance for a recommendation. And we can welcome Counselor Jarrett back into the room. There he is. Oh, good. You weren't that very far away, right? All right.
Barely had any time to eat.
Oh, I'm sorry. We should have discussed it. It's a lot of money. We should have spent a little more time discussing that referral. So, all right. So we're up to item 22.118, an order authorizing acquisition of drainage easement on Sherman Avenue. Mayor, who from the city is here to speak to this?
I see Director LaScalia.
Oh, there. Right. I got my new glasses on and everything, and I still can't see people. There. Hello, Director.
Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I just have a few words to say about this. We're doing a little bit of housekeeping on Sherman Avenue as part of the development of the parcel at number 29. And what we found is that we have an old, what's called a centerline drain easement on this property, which just means it's recorded at the Registry of Deeds, but it is not as clearly defined as we would like. We like to have a plan of the easement, and we like it dimensioned so we know exactly what our access looks like, and there's no question about where our utilities are and where we're able to access to maintain and or repair and or replace them. So what this order does is it just seeks to formalize an old centerline drain easement that already exists by defining it in more precise terms. So we've been working with the attorney for the property owner, and that's the order that you see in front of you. So this is fairly straightforward, but happy to take questions.
Counselors. Councilor Labarge.
Yeah. Donna, did I hear you correctly that you are working with the owner near that property?
Yep, so Sovereign Builders owns the parcel, and we've been working with their attorney to draw up this plan and to communicate what we need. And there's no objections from those folks, and that's why this is here tonight.
Thank you.
Donna, so are we expecting to pay some money for this easement? Is there a fee cost for us, or?
No, there's no fee associated with this. It's a voluntary arrangement between the city and the property owner. So the only time we do an appraisal or there's a transfer of money is when we need to do that, because there may be some level of negotiation.
Mm-hmm. And so this is of benefit to both us and the property owner, that this is basically clarifying whatever the easement and clarifies things for the property owner. So this is a good thing for both sides.
It is. Some of these older easements have a lack of definition, and that can be surprising and confusing to folks if we do actually need to get in and do some work.
Okay. Councilor Labarge.
Yeah. Donna, when will they finalize the paperwork on this?
If we vote tonight, I think you folks have to sign this, and then we'll record it at the registry as soon as we can. It's good to have this formalized so that the project here can proceed. So I would say as soon as possible, and hopefully next week.
Thank you.
Well, just to clarify, this is on the agenda for, this will be referred tonight either to finance or to the consent agenda?
The consent agenda, yeah. So if it could go to the consent agenda, that would be helpful.
Okay, and that meets a timeline that works for the city?
That would be fine, yep.
Okay, great.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion on this?
No.
I'll make a motion to move it.
Okay, Councilor Perry is making a motion to send it to the consent agenda.
Yes.
And I think I saw Councilor Labarge once again with that quick second.
Yep, second.
Any discussion on referring this to the consent agenda? Seeing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
and Councillor Gore.
Yes.
Okay, so in order, authorizing acquisition of drainage easement on Sherman Ave has been moved to this consent agenda. Next up, item 22.119, in order to accept DA Sullivan $10,000 gift for public art project. This one's nice and brief. The Northampton City Council gratefully accepts the donation of $10,000, a gift to the city of Northampton from D.A. Sullivan and Sons, Inc., and in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, approves using the gifted funds to fund a public art project, Thorns Marketplace mural, under the direction of the Northampton Arts and Culture Department. Mayor, is there somebody here to speak to this?
I can speak to it.
Oh, great.
So Thorns has asked us to partner, has asked the city to partner with them, and the city and the Arts Council to install a mural on one of the rear sides of the building to create a more attractive space. So as you know, that rear part of Thorns, between Thorns and then there's the parking garage, that's where the Tuesday market is. That's really an important sort of gathering space, but it doesn't have any sort of decoration to it or color. And so the idea is to create a mural to go there. So we had been exploring different funding possibilities, and counselors who've been around a while will know that DA Sullivan has very, very, very generously for quite a few years made an annual gift to the city of $10,000 that has gone to lots of different projects. So in the council chambers, which some of you have never experienced putting your booties in those seats. Did I just say booty? I did. But I've not sat.
You said it twice.
I've sat at those desks. Those were donated by DA Sullivan back in 2016. They have done work on some of the early, they've donated money for work on early childhood playgrounds at Leeds and Bridge Street schools. The water fountain in Pulaski Park was also funded by them. The digital display and presentation system at the JFK Community Room. They've supported the Senior Center Technology Lending Program. And so this year they approached us, as they have the last few years, and said they would like to make this gift. And we were trying to figure out what would be the best use of it. And we brought this idea to them, and they were very, very enthusiastic about helping to fund this. So I just want to give my very sincere thanks to them. They are wonderful members of the city, are so generous, have given so much. They are wonderful residents of the city, and I'm just so appreciative of how every year they look to do something that has meaning and for the city and in the city. So that is what this gift is for, to create a mural on the back of Thorns. And it's also, we hope that it'll draw more visitors there, and also will draw attention to the parking garage that we're always trying to encourage people to park in the parking garage. So this is a really lovely, lovely thing that they're doing, and I can't wait to see it painted and up there.
Cool. Councillor Foster, then Councillor Labarge.
Thank you for that introduction. That's great. And I have had the opportunity now to vote on acceptance of a couple of gifts from DA Sullivan, and it's so generous. And to hear you discuss the legacy of their gifts, it's very powerful. And I see that this mural is going to be under the direction of the Arts and Culture Department. And I'm wondering if you know what the process may be. Like, do they have a design, or will there be a public process for soliciting proposals, or do you know that piece?
Alan, are you here? Alan has been working with Brian Foote, and I'm hoping that he can pop on and give, hold on, I'm going to ask him to unmute some information on what he knows.
Sorry, I was clicking around a little bit. Were you asking what the process for the proposals is?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I know it's under the direction of the Arts and Culture Department, but what that looks like, if there is a design, or there'll be a public process to solicit designs and an artist, and all of the stuff that goes into making it happen.
I definitely know that he has a process planned. I'm sorry that I can't speak in detail to what it will be. I think we're required to have some level of public process for this kind of an expenditure, but I can absolutely reach out to him and get a better answer than I'm giving right now to you, Counselor. Sorry.
Sorry to spring that on you, Alan.
No worries. I might have known, but I don't.
Counselor Labarge, I believe you were
Yes.
next, right?
Thank you. I want to echo what the mayor has stated about DA Sullivan and Sons and the family. They are so caring and heartwarming and very generous to our city of Northampton. And I thank them also for all the donations that they have done. And yes, our desks, our chairs, we needed them anyways, but they are so appreciated in our city of Northampton.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, anybody else? So I don't think we have a motion yet, do we?
No, I'd like to make a motion to send it to the consent agenda.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Barge and seconded by
I'll second it.
Counselor Perry. Okay. Any more discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, this is to send it to the consent agenda. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay. That order to accept a gift from DA Sullivan is going to the consent agenda for our next meeting. Okay, we've already dealt with the broker's fee. Now we're up to item 22.106, an administrative order to amend the City of Northampton Administrative Code. This is in second reading. We had the hearing on this earlier, and I would entertain a motion to amend the administrative code.
I'll move. Second.
All right. I know Counselor Moulton did the second. I don't know who did the first.
That was me.
Oh, so
Counselor Foster, I could identify myself.
No, that's okay. Well, it shows up, but what happened was there was lots of green boxes jumping around. So that's my tell. So Counselor Foster made the motion, seconded by Counselor Moulton. Any discussion on this? Counselor Jarrett, and then Counselor Foster.
Great. Thank you. I just wanted to, as I said last time, make, just a thanks to all of you, to the mayor and the health director and others to really working to hold the principles of the Policing Review Commission's report in crafting this. So that's great. I had a question for Director Donovan that I didn't get to ask last time. I wondered about the where in the structure the recommended advisory board would be so people with lived experience, how that plays into the decisions that will be made for the Department of Community Care and perhaps the other aspects of the Health and Human Services Department.
Yes, thanks, Councilor Jarrett. And I also want to leave some space for Michelle to answer to on behalf of the DHHS in general. But I will say that I was present for a lot of the Northampton Policing Review Commission's meetings and certainly have looked over the report quite a few times. I think that having perspectives of people with lived experience is essential for this department. And so I know in collaboration with Michelle and Director O'Leary, soon to be Commissioner O'Leary, we're exploring ways to include community engagement. One of the things that I wanted to be thoughtful about is how to include people's participation and also offering ways in which people either could be compensated or honored for their perspectives. I know that was a really big talking point during the commission's meetings, was how to include people with lived experience in a way that in terms of technology and access made sense, but also in terms of like honoring their perspectives. So we're exploring some options right now. I want to say that, you know, Michelle and I have been working really diligently, even like the last few days, many hours, to figure out how we're going to use the funds we already have to use for fiscal year 22 to work with some consultants that I hope will help with that. I hope to be more detailed when we have our budgetary hearing on 31st. And I hope you can respect that. We can be able to share some more then. Yeah, I want to make sure that when we include people to be giving, you know, input about lived experience and hopefully forming into an advisory council, that people's time and worth is being respected. And I think it's a real challenge in the city right now. I know that there's a committee that, you know, we're hearing about today that are looking at barriers to service on committees and commissions. And I think while I'd love to, you know, tackle some of the barriers with my appointment as director, implementation director, I think we have bigger structural changes in the city that I'd like us to address too. And so as I'm saying this, you know, I really appreciate the question. I will just say, as someone who does have lived experience, you know, being in the mental health system and knowing that's a huge part of probably why I was, you know, granted this role, I take that into a lot of, you know, consideration. So I don't want to overpromise anything, you know, that we are still working through, but I think it's a really important part of how I want this department to unfold. So I'd love to give you more details, you know, when we talk about the budget. If you have any follow-up questions, I'm certainly willing to answer that. And I also wanted to leave some space for Michelle to offer anything if she would like to as well.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having us, city councilors and Mayor Sierra, for all of your support for this work ahead. We are very committed to peer participatory processes, community voice, and making sure that we value everyone that's going to be part of this process. And that's something we've always worked towards with our goals with Hampshire Hope and the coalition across Hampshire County and our prevention work. We think about this with our other programs, the DART program, and we will continue to pursue all means possible to be able to bring all voices to the table for all the work that we do, and especially with the DCC being a new and emerging program for the community. We're going to be informed with what the community wants and needs, and we're committed to making sure that that happens. So definitely reiterate Director Donovan, which I'm very much just wanted to say publicly, enjoying the process of working with and getting to know, and as well looking for vendors that will maintain and uphold our values and mission, the health department that commit to contracts that include all people's voices and processes. Thank you.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more on May 31st.
Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Sean and Michelle, for being here and for your, you know, the hard work and being here to answer our questions. Really appreciate it. You know, it was interesting and surprising to me, Councillor Nash, you reflected on it when we held the public hearing on the administrative order, that there actually weren't members of the public here to speak to it. And that's not for lack of people knowing that it was happening. You know, I spoke with a couple of people in Ward 2 who were involved and closely watching, you know, carefully following from the NPRC to the recommendations now. And they were both sort of wholeheartedly in support of this administrative change, and really glad to see it being housed in, you know, Health and Human Services and that change. And so, you know, I just wanted to to say that because it, it can be a little bit of a question as to why, but the, people I engaged with who are following this knew that it was happening. One, and we're very supportive. The only question that has come up, or something I just wanted to make sure to state out loud as well, is that with the recommendation coming out of the Policing Review Commission, to move responses that don't need an armed police response to the Department of Community Care. I guess the piece I want to hold on to is mental health and health related services are going to be really significant. I also just want to make sure we're holding on to the piece of calls that may be coming in that are not health related. I know that there was, specific mention of animal control in that report, and there's other, calls that don't need an armed police response but are not health related. And we're sort of asking for the moon, and I wanted to name that, but just also hold that piece as it all unfolds, and it's not going to unfold instantaneously at the moon, but just putting that out there for your consideration, and would love to actually hear your thoughts on that too.
They can't unmute. I mean, I've been unmuting them, but
Oh,
if you make them co-host, they could just do it themselves.
Thank you, Mayor Sierra, for the unmuting action. And yeah, Councillor Foster, I would love to respond to that, at least in some piece. Yeah, so I want to just share that we've had some initial conversation. We've had a lot of conversations, but some initial conversations with the police chief, the head of dispatch, which we're going to go deeper into in the following months and this next year, to really talk about like where we overlap in terms of where we could see a use for the Department of Community Care's, yet to be created responder team, and it does go deeper than health and mental health, and even under our initial conversations. And so while animal control was not part of that conversation, I do think we were talking about disputes in both like buildings and in neighborhoods, ways in which we can support people through certain I think disputes are a huge part of what comes through dispatch currently. A lot of calls, even if they have a call type in the dispatch log that is something other than dispute, there's often a disagreement about a use of space, for instance. And so we are really looking in terms of our training series to make sure our responders are really well adapted and trained in speaking to disputes, but also distinguishing between like what's a conflict and what's maybe abuse, which is a different type of response. So we're thinking broader than just what gets called so-called mental health and health. So yeah, appreciate you offering us those perspectives. And kind of to combine, just one last thing I wanted to say, Councillor Jarrett's question and yours. I did want to be clear that while we haven't figured out like what is our best model for an advisory council, like given all these ideas of compensating people, or at least giving worth to the lived experience people share. I have been spending extensive time at places like Mana Community Center, which is sort of our temporary resilience hub, the Touch the Sky space, people that I know who hang out at street corners certain times a week, and just trying to connect with people about what they're looking for, what they're needing. And so I have like had some really consistent and informal guidance from people that are houseless, people that are using a lot of public services. And so I want to think of a way to incorporate that more formally, but I want to do that thoughtfully too. And so I guess I didn't want to neglect to say like I'm having a lot of conversations, but and that also is informing how we look at dispatch data, quite honestly, because that gives us a lot of understanding of like, is our first responders like going to one site repeatedly, and like that's something that cues me, and I think Michelle and other people working on this, like we have to talk to people on the ground and see like what's going on. But talking to people about their experience of safety, of what's feeling hard in terms of conflicts of space, in their city is also a cues for where we're putting our attention. And I guess the last piece I'll say, like while we're looking for the Department of Community Care to serve like our whole city, I think when we look at the most vulnerable people in our city, like that gives us an understanding of what's going to benefit everybody. So there's this whole idea, I'll just say this one last thing, of the curb cut effect, which I take to heart, which is like, you know, when people who use chairs, wheelchairs, were looking to get around before Public Works actually put cuts in the curbs, like people were like, we can't get around the city. So the disability rights movement, you know, demanded that there be curb cuts in the sidewalk, but that also benefited parents with strollers, that benefited delivery people. It benefited so many folks that weren't necessarily at the vanguard of that movement. And that's kind of a metaphor for like why we center the most vulnerable people in terms of designing our supports, because it might benefit a whole bunch of other people in our community too. And so maybe in a future date, I can elaborate more. I know it's kind of late for all of us, so, but I just wanted to respond to both of your questions in a little more detail. So thank you.
Hi, Councillor Foster. It's nice to see you via Zoom. I'm just so thrilled that you asked this question, honestly, because although public health was asked initially and the report to be the home for the DCC, we understand there's going to be a lot of roles that the DCC plays that do, you know, deviate from the traditional public health lens that the community may interpret or understand as our role within the health, you know, fields. But I'm a public healthy, so I'm going to bring the public health to you here and say there's almost little to very few ways that we can't find a public health intersection in people's lives, whether it's, you know, social, emotional, environmental. There are so many different ways that our systems intersect that that's one of the blessings that has come from this early, you know, bringing together of our departments and resources that the mayor has done with such great, I would just say, modeling of a positive approach and showing and demonstrating that by being transparent to the community that this is a, you know, health commission now, and Director O'Leary has her eyes set to really grow and expand the resources and available programs to the community and for the work that we do in the city proper, as well as for our regional partnerships. I would say there will be no limitations to what the DCC can and cannot approach as far as their modalities and assessment of the needs and responses that will result in that. And we're extremely excited as we do take that holistic public health lens to look for these opportunities as ways that we can also inform the other programs that will intersect in the Resilience Hub and lots of other things that are addressing the needs that people have in a preventative way by using that language and lessons learned the community gives us in this process, where we find we're excelling and really making headway and progress, and the composure of the team as it's revealed too. That's something that we're really respectful of the work that Director Donovan has done in his fact finding to this point, and bringing to us that the community has expressed these are areas that we want you to explore, we want you to vision, and we want you to find strategies to look for effectiveness in the interventions, designs, and hopefully starting to build back preventative measures. So that's public health, in its essence. And one of the pieces that I think is really important for the community to know is that we will look to respond to the needs as they're identified without, a restrictive method that is only focused on an individual sector. This is a really holistic and thoughtful innovation that the city is bringing forward, and we hope to show an application that benefits many, many different ways the city has needs.
Councilors, any questions, comments?
Can I just comment on what an amazing team they are? I'm sorry, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
looking at them. It's just, I'm just proud and just struck by how remarkable this new innovation that we're doing is, and the passion that this team is bringing to it. So I just thank you, Michelle and Sean.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
We do.
Okay, we have a motion. Good, I got that done. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you to Shauna and Michelle for being here tonight. This is exciting work. And Mayor, thanks for bringing this order forward. This is a very cool reorganization. You know, as I said last time, as a human service worker, this is great. I can't believe we haven't had this aspect going on for all of the years that I've lived in Northampton. So with that said, oh, and Sean, I love the curb cut analogy. That is great. Accessibility has been, it's changed the environment for everybody, whether it's around curb cuts, it's getting into bathrooms. We now have bathrooms that parents can bring kids in to change diapers, that they're easier for people to clean. I mean, it's just like that is a really fantastic analogy. So thank you. All right. So we have a motion. Any more discussion? Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
and Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay, that passes, and we now have a Health and Human Services Department with the DCC. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, now on to, where else do we go? We've done the mosquito control. We've done a lot here, guys.
Yep.
We've done the ranked choice voting. Now we're down to zoning ordinances, and we have something here on first reading, item 22.110, an ordinance to rezone 130 Pine Street from URB to office industrial. Mayor, is somebody here to speak to this?
Carolyn Mish.
Presumably she's done with her dinner by now.
Yeah.
There she is.
Welcome, Carolyn. You want
I'm
to?
hungry again, though.
I know it's been a while. You have the floor, Carolyn. You want to explain to us what we're up to here?
Sure. I don't know if Laura, you want to put the map up, or I can share my screen, whatever you want to do. But I think that might be helpful just to orient people. This is a map, what we refer to as a zoning map amendment proposed to expand what is currently the office industrial district, which includes buildings of sort of old mill buildings around the intersection of Pine Street and Nonotuck Street, where they intersect, and then Porticelli there. A few years ago, City Council amended the zoning ordinance to bring in the old Florence Grammar School to allow more flexibility of reuse of that historic building. And this parcel, which is outlined in blue, is the Florence Congregational Church. It's currently zoned urban residential B, and it immediately abuts the edge of the office industrial district, both on the west side and the south side. Along here, along Nonotuck Street, is also that purple hatching area, is also office industrial. The reason for the request is to help support the reuse of the Florence Congregational Church and sort of new shared uses that are envisioned by the Bombyx arts community that has started to occupy the space and has entered into an agreement with the Florence Congregational Church for shared space to provide new cultural and arts experiences in Florence Center. This property, just to zoom out a little bit, is just south of Florence Center and walkable from Florence Center, even though it's not right in Florence Center. I don't have a zoom out of that. I was just sort of mentally having people sort of zoom out a little bit. And really rezoning it to office industrial allows performance space to be an allowed use in and of itself, as opposed to just an accessory component of a church function. The companion piece that goes along with this recommendation to put this order for this zoning amendment forward would be an entering into a development agreement with Florence Congregational Church and ultimately Bombyx to permanently protect the historic defining features of the church or the church building itself. And as you may recall, there are other, throughout the city, we have adopted zoning to allow in residential districts provisions for the reuse of historic church buildings for other uses that are not traditionally residential uses, just in order to ensure that we can maintain these important historic buildings in our community and help them sort of have a renewed life and evolve into different uses. And so that's really the impetus behind this zoning amendment, that although they could potentially go to the planning board in the current zoning urban residential B, we felt like it was important because it abuts an already existing office industrial district, that it really made more sense and opened up even more opportunities for the reuse of the structure. The zoning wouldn't speak to details about any kinds of modifications that Bombyx might want to undertake in the future. So building expansions or parking or site changes, all of those would come through potentially to the planning board for site specific evaluation and modification through a public hearing process if it triggered such. This is really just to allow the uses to move forward, and they are agreeable to permanently protecting the church building. In fact, that's their mission. Their goal is really to do that. And so it's very consistent with what we've offered to them is a path forward by permanently, by recording a preservation restriction on the building.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any other questions? And this is on our agenda. This is for first reading. And since this is a rezoning, a zoning matter, it needs to go to planning board. And also a city council committee needs to be designated to hold a public hearing. And at times in the past, there's been joint public hearings with the planning board. So this is on the table for referral to a committee and to the planning board. Councilor Jarrett.
Yeah, so this is in my ward, Ward 5, and I have just last night met with a number of neighbors of the property to discuss concerns and their support. And so I'm looking forward to addressing those concerns through the process. And I would move that we refer this matter to planning board and to legislative matters.
Second that one.
Okay. So we have a motion to refer this to the planning board and to legislative matters. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion.
I I actually would like to also move it to community resources. I have a desire to that. Could I add that to it as well? Or do I need to make a separate motion?
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
That's how you do it.
We can do it together.
And who seconded?
I think Mary Ann.
I did.
Yeah, and Counselor Labarge, you're okay with that addition as well?
I'm fine.
Yep, okay. So now community resources has been added to the referrals. But but it's going to be, and Counselor Jarrett, your motion is for legislative matters to hold the public hearing.
Well, legislative matters needs to hold a public hearing, as does the planning board. And
Well, we can designate a committee according to what we have here. I'm fine with let's do legislative matters.
Okay, yeah, and I'll discuss with planning board folks about doing a joint public hearing. I think that would be efficient, especially if we're also having a separate meeting at some point with community resources.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, motion is on the floor to refer to legislative matters, community resources, and the planning board. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster. She's
Oh,
muted.
yes.
Counselor Foster, okay. Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes. Okay, that has been referred to various committees. Carolyn, thanks for being here. Is she gone already? Like the wind. Bye, Carolyn. Have a good night. So, Laura, am I tracking things right here that we are down to resolutions?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's only 10:43. Well, you know what? I think this all speaks to when we do our work through our committees and we do, our public process, we're making decisions based on known information. So this is all good. Okay, so we are up to resolution 22.101, a resolution in opposition to a Proposition 22 clone ballot initiative. This is in second reading. A motion to approve this.
Move approval, please.
Okay, I heard Counselor Jarrett make the motion.
Second.
Who was that? Oh, Counselor Elkins, okay. All right, so the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Counselor Maori.
I'm experiencing some internet lag. Which resolution are we? Is it the clone?
It's the clone, yes.
Oh, thank you.
That's a fair question, asking what you're
Well,
voting
it was the
on.
first one, but I didn't know how long I'd been out. Any other realm in the multiverse.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yeah, I'm, we both, Counselor Gore and I spoke about this quite a bit last time, so I'm not going to repeat any of that, but just want to say we're seeing more and more momentum building around this issue. And I spoke recently with Owen Zarrett, counselor from East Hampton, and who sponsored a resolution there. So I'm excited that this is moving, that movement to oppose this is increasing.
Excellent. Okay, any more comment? Seeing none. Roll call, Laura, please.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay. That next up is Resolution 22.103. Resolution in support of the Edward P. Bolin Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Leeds. This is in second reading. Counselor Foster.
Yes, I need to recuse myself from this discussion as my employer, All Out Adventures, has a financial interest in the Leeds VA.
Okay. Counselor Maori.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief update on the situation there in case people hadn't heard. I know it's the last item, so I'll try to be brief, but it's a hopeful update. That's why I want to share it. I don't know if you might have seen it in Mass Live, but Rep. McGovern was talking about it. So Rep. McGovern has been pushing this and really representing, showing up for the medical center. And I'll just read the Mass Live part here. Federal officials used data that did not reflect the increased number of veterans eligible for as of 2019 to access local care outside the VA system. The result, according to the GAO's assessment, was that the VA lacked a full understanding of community care providers' ability to supplement VA care. VA meaning the federal. So the federal branch did not have all the data correct about our medical center. McDonald told McGovern that he recognized the serious issues with the incomplete data used to make the recommendations, according to the readout of the call provided by the Congressman's office. He assured McGovern that the Asset and Infrastructure Review Commission, the group that tasked with making this assessment, would have up-to-date information before making a final recommendation. According to the call readout, McDonough also acknowledged significant upgrades had been made to the Northampton facility in recent years. And so I just want, so basically the update is they're saying, you know, the federal decision makers were saying they didn't have all the data on the Leeds VA Medical Center. So that's actually, I'm feeling hopeful about that. And, you know, and go Rep. McGovern.
I know.
Just, you know, I think it's probably because he pushed it.
Yep.
Without him pushing it, we wouldn't be here. So anyway, yay.
Yay.
You know, it's cautious optimism.
It's a great update. Any more comments, counselors? Okay. I just want to say that I appreciate us bringing this resolution forward. There's a groundswell of support, especially within our veterans community, to keep this center open. And yeah, this is great. So thank you to the sponsors.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more discussion, Laura, roll call, please.
I think we just need a motion on the floor.
Oh, we need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Motion was made by Counselor Perry and Counselor Labarge. I'll give you the second again.
I did.
Well, you made the motion, so anyway.
That's okay, just move it.
Okay, any more discussion? Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say before we adjourn that the incredible amount of work we did tonight and working with the mayor, you know, that we created a DCC. We have over $500,000 went to affordable housing. You know, we came up with a solution to the animal control facility. I mean, there's like 8 or 9 other things that are all really great. So
Mayor used the word booty twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Okay. So
You know
any-
my filter goes at 2:30, so.
well, this is the time to do it. Let's adjourn and then the filter can really be off.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Labarge, seconded by Counselor Foster. Laura, roll call, please, on adjournment.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye,